Hey everyone, welcome to Dialog Choices podcast. This is the episode where I'm too close to the microphone for the entire run. How's everyone doing today? How's everyone doing?
Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
What?
Why is this?
Yeah, let's just ruin the podcast for everyone.
All right, now that we've scared off all the viewers.
That was so audible. that swallow was so audible.
It was.
Speaking of audible, this episode's just fucking break out my first sponsorship out of fucking nowhere. 11 years into this nightmare.
And starting with Audible right away with their bad business practices and things.
I mean, because they're just literally Amazon, right? Like,
well, yeah.
Oh, they were bought. That's true.
They've been Amazon like forever, for like as long as I've known about them, basically.
Not me though. I have never Audibled, so.
I think. Are you admitting that you know Audible?
I know Audible. Everybody knows because they show up on YouTube videos, and then I click double tap on the arrow key.
I feel like the only sponsorship I would ever do. This is I don't know. If someone offers me enough fucking money, and it's actually like an explicit quote, we'll give you this much money, and not like, oh, what are your rates? Like I might take a sponsorship because it's the realistic. It's just the reality of existing. And it's like I don't make that much money. Fucking I could use a few $1,000s if I had the opportunity.
Yeah.
My issue with sponsorships is that they always are like, oh, what are your rates and how much would it cost? I'm like, I don't, especially back when I was only making Let's Plays. I was like, this video will not get enough viewership to justify you paying me for any kind of sponsorship. So if you're offering me money, like you basically, like most likely you just basically haven't, you spammed this to everybody and you have not looked at my channel at all. And you're not going to offer me shit when you see how much viewership I actually get on like a Let's Play. So I'm like, this is just not worth. It's just not worth like the integrity loss, especially since I'm from the old internet. Back in the days of YouTube, where getting any kind of monetization made you look like a criminal, like a madman, an evil YouTuber, clout chaser, nightmare man.
These days you put non-skippable ads in the middle of videos and it's like, nah, nobody cares.
I was like afraid to turn monetization on when I first did on my channel, and I legitimately did like stay up all night, like awake in bed, just stressing over it when I announced and activated my Patreon account, and like people responded fine to it, but I thought that I was like I thought it was going to be seen as this like massive betrayal because I've seen that several times. Like I remember when in the first year of Game Grumps, like back in 2012, JonTron made a video. Or someone made a video. I didn't even see the real one because it got taken down so fast. But they made a video that was just announcing, "Hey, JonTron made a new video on his main account." Like the most basic possible fucking thing, and the audience reaction was so vitriolic that they took the video down. Like they just like, nope, we're never doing this again. We're never the idea of like promoting a a high effort piece of content you made on your other channel when you are the host of this channel was still seen as like inappropriate behavior in like 2012 somehow. And I'm like, I don't understand. It's so bizarre.
Wait till they see
it's been wild watching like the rise of like entire Instagram channels that only exist to promote like facial creams that are scams and people are like, yes, slay, get that bag. And I'm like, what the fuck? This isn't the internet I grew up with. I feel guilty all the time. But no, I feel like the only sponsorship I'd think about taking is like Nebula, because that's obviously like join this platform and whatever and get and make and like as a video essayist.
I thought you were gonna say Bad Dragon or something like that, but
I mean that would be very entertaining.
I would shill Bad Dragon.
I would shill Bad
Dragon. If you're watching.
I'd have to. They'd have to pay me enough for the video to be a throwaway because the fucking video would get tanked by the ad.
They do though. They pay like the
they pay a lot.
It depends on the channel, obviously, but the rates are usually at around, if you get like 100,000 views, you can get a few $1,000.
I'd fucking put an ad for like Rudder Butts or Rogue Fang or Bad Dragon in the furry video essay. I'm not afraid.
I mean, Rudderbucks
I'd go
and Rogue
for it.
Fang are like, that's fine. That's not gonna get anyone in trouble.
What's
Like
the other
that's
one,
not
like,
a problem.
was
at
the
I
all.
one that
don't
was-
think
what was
Bad Dragon
the-
would get anybody in trouble.
Who
No,
was
I don't think so
demoing in
either.
Las
It would
Vegas?
just
Was it Twin Tail?
Twin Tail, yeah.
Twin Tail. Battle it
Yeah.
out. Bidding war for my
The company I
sponsorship
bought a
slot.
bunch of stuff from in front of all of our friends.
My only experience. Oh, go ahead.
Inside of the fandom, like furry sponsorships would be very amusing. That'd be like kind of fulfilling in a way. But like I don't. One of the things like I don't like getting requests from like there's like an integrity loss feeling of like the idea of like taking a sponsorship from just some random product that I know nothing about, which is what most people do. So I don't like that idea. But I also just like this. It's just that thing where like if they most of the offers are not sincere, they're spam, and if they saw my channel they wouldn't actually pay me basically. And if they're not, but in the other ones that do offer me like a too good to be true amount, they always ghost me the moment I actually ask for real details and don't just walk into their scam, because they are trying to scam me.
Yeah.
They're either trying to fish me in some way. Well, actually, they're just probably pretty much exclusively probably trying to fish me in some way. But like, it's always
A lot
like,
of it is like trying to get you to open an attachment that it has viruses in it, so that you get your cookies stolen, you get your channel hijacked.
Yeah, and it's like this person's very much not sincerely offering me money, and that's all the more reason to ignore all sponsorship offers, is because you're like I could literally like these people are in like a significant percentage of these people are trying to literally steal my job from me and ruin my life.
Yeah.
with these emails.
Yeah, it's like
it's the same reason
it's
why
a
I
full-time
don't-
job to sift through it to see what is real and what isn't, and like the danger is just really high.
It's the same reason like why if you draw me fan art, you have to post it on like Twitter or in DMs or post it in the Discord or something. Like I will not open a link to your fan art because like it could be like someone trying to ruin my life. That's what I get to deal with all the time. Yay.
Well, if the link is to Twitter, I suppose it, or something like that. I suppose it's
Send your
fine.
fan art in an acrylic print framed to my PO box.
So
Do
got
you
a
still
first
have the
question.
PO box?
Anyway, I did not.
sorry.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing
Yeah, we
about
sell the
having
PO
PO boxes and also living in modern world and moving is that people will search PO box in your videos, find any PO box video, and then send stuff to that PO box.
Yeah.
And so I've had people
Without
try to send
validating
stuff to
whether or
our no
not,
longer
yeah.
existent old PO box from those old videos that's from like 5+ years ago, back when we were playing doing Zero Escape, and I'm like, neither of us live in that city anymore. My PO box information's in my about tab. Why did you do this? That's how I
I
lost
send
out
stuff
on
to the
the
PO box pretty frequently. So I mean, hey, viewers, join in. Keith doesn't need to pay for a subscription just so that I can send stuff to his PO box. I know where he lives. I could just send it to his address.
If I remember
But you
correctly,
do
that happened with both. That happened with both the World of Horror like press kit that was supposed to have like Junji Ito stuff in it and like other like goodies. I think all got sent to the old PO box and then probably came back as like wrong address or something. And once upon a time, I was supposed to get like this was a PR email that cost me money. Ultimately, is that I was supposed to get the HD remastered collection box set special edition thing of Yakuza for like 3, 4, and 5, and it just kept not arriving forever. After I was told explicitly that they were sending it to me, and I was like, oh, that's a cool gift. That's fun. I'll go, and I'm covering those games, so that's neat. So then I ended up buying 3 individually because the box set was coming. So like I shouldn't buy the pack, even though it's a way of saving money. I should buy I should just buy 3 individually because the whole thing's coming. But it continued to never arrive, so I ended up buying 3, 4, and 5 individually and just losing money as a result.
Yeah. Oh no.
Nothing. You can't trust these people.
Even official people from it's who's the
I have a
publisher?
near
Not Atlas.
100% failure
Sega.
rate where every press kit
Sega,
that someone tells me they're sending me doesn't arrive, and all the ones that do arrive I've never heard of, and they're just a wacky surprise. And I'm like, do I make a video about this? Like, and I keep not getting around to it. Don't send me press kits hoping that I'll just make a video at random about just your press kit.
Who does that, especially for a Let's Play channel?
I received
wild.
I received a suitcase in the mail.
Wow.
That says Cartel Tycoon on it, printed on the outside of the suitcase, so it's useless for traveling because it says Cartel on it. and it was full of. It had a bag of flour to be fake Coke, and it had like, it had blue meth in the form of.
How did you know it was flour?
They send it to you, and you get immediately put on a fucking watch list.
It had Breaking Bad reference blue meth in the form of rock candy, and it had a.
That's nice though.
And it had, I actually used this to print Toaster's badge because I couldn't find a a single USB drive anywhere to take to the print store. They sent me like, it's like a key fob, like it's like it looks like a key with like a keychain that has like a squishy keychain blob on it, and the little thing says Cartel Tycoon, and the key, it's like a flat key shaped USB drive.
Yeah.
So it's and so I actually used that to store Toaster's files to print his con badge when I was like short notice trying to find a USB drive because I don't use them ever. Never made a video, but I actually recorded myself opening it, but I was so confused in opening it because I thought it was the World of Horror press kit that I kind of like ruined the video by not understanding what was happening while I was opening it. And then I never used the footage because I was like, I'd both need to edit this and like I'd have to play Cartel Tycoon, and like I really don't like doing let's tries of like management or RTS games because they're so slow build up and
Yeah.
You say it's not a usable briefcase, but you can just put some tape over it and say "very nice" instead of Cartel, and that's it.
Very nice Tycoon.
Very good thing.
Very good.
Just use like what's it called?
Unsuspicious to the TSA Tycoon.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Acetone. Use acetone to. Acetone to strip the ink where it says it off.
Unless they do it like with embossing and like
or like engraving or whatever.
Alternatively, just go to the fucking airport and pretend like you're Cartel, and then after enough time, they're gonna get so annoyed with you. They're gonna be like, "That's that stupid fucking Cartel faker. Just ignore him." And then now you're allowed to bring Coke into the country. No one will have to.
Cartel Tycoon is just your cool Instagram brand
by Andrew.
I know all the deets. I know
how
all
to
the
bring
secrets.
Coke into the country. Definitely not in the watch list right now.
Here's how little you can buy me with press kits though, because I'm not a swag person. I am not like seduced by packs in any way. This stuff does not matter to me.
So he says.
Some indie company sent me a set that had like. It was a little charming. It had like a little cassette tape of their soundtrack of their game, and it had and it came with like a whole booklet of their game, like old school booklet that had their character designs and like, oh, look at these little anthro dudes. They seem neat. It was not an anthro game, but it had some cool little dudes in it still that were in that territory. Puzzlingly, did not contain any copy of the game. It did not have a code. It did not have a. It did not have a code. It did not have a USB drive. It did not have like a disc. Like I forgot. I'm looking at my room now, trying to think of where I put it because I don't think I threw it away, but I don't know where any of this is. I was gonna break it out and like try to like at least say what the game was. I think the only follow through I've ever had so far was that after we covered all the We Were Here games, when We Were Here Forever or whatever, I think that's the newest one came out. They sent me and Bird snow globes. And that was cool.
You guys are actually on the if you go to the Xbox store and watch the trailer, you guys show up in the trailer.
Yeah, we're in the trailer.
Wait, for what game? What game was this again?
We were here.
We Were Here. Gotcha.
Our coverage of the original We Were Here is very briefly edited in a not very entertaining way into the trailer for that game to showcase
it's very deceptive.
But I mean, that's been a pretty good partnership for you, though, right? I mean, partnership in the sense of
it's a cute moment. It's just that we don't really say anything. It's a cute moment. We just don't really say anything like particularly like funny or entertaining in the little clip they use. But amusingly, in the comment section for the trailer, there's people accusing them of false advertising because I edit those videos to be split screen for the viewers, and so it implies that the game has split screen. If you use it in the trailer. Whoops.
So, oopsie.
Yeah.
Well, we got our first question, by the way.
That said, Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, someone wanted us to talk about our pets. Do we all have pets or no?
I don't have pets anymore. I moved.
Colonel's only pet is the job.
That started very ominous at first.
Yeah, that was dark.
I don't have pets anymore because I moved.
Like I saw him last week. And he's a very, very lazy cat. It's the laziest of cats that I've ever seen.
That's bullshit, dude. I'm looking at a cat right now that's literally laying in like a filing cabinet in the sun. Like, how more anti-work can you be?
My cat is also just in a cat bed behind me. I have 2 cats. I have one, a white and gray barn cat that has been converted into, I mean, he was like a barn cat when he was like very little. He was like feral. But then we adopted him. And he
corrupted
him. Yeah, now he's
ruined
lazy.
His work ethic.
He's fucking huge. He is a huge cat. I don't necessarily mean like he's fat. He's not really. He's just long.
No, he's tank. He's like a tanky cat. Yeah.
He's a very, very big cat. When I pick him up,
I just need 3 damaged cats and a support cat.
Yeah, I need 3 damaged cats. I need a rogue cat. And then I have a black cat as well, who is inversely extraordinarily tiny, and her name is Ripley. She's very cute.
Oh,
but yeah. So I have a.
So, yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah. I have an 18-pound fucking 4-foot long barn cat, and then
18 pounds. That's enormous.
It sounds really big because you think when you say, oh yeah, I have like an 18-pound cat, it makes you think that he's like big and chunky. So he's not. He's just really, really just large. Muscle. Like, yeah, it's not even muscle. It's just like his proportions are bigger than the other cat. So Ripley is like a small, like 9 to 10 pounds, looks like a little cat that you would like, a little black cat, like Salem from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. That's what she looks like. But then Goofy is like, if you took the like this character scale slider in Dark Souls and just like moved it all the way up, where his head is like 3 times the size of her head. Like his skull is 3 times the size of her skull. If you told me he was like part lynx, I would believe you. He is as big as like a Maine Coon cat without being a Maine Coon. He is huge. And when I pick him up and I hold him underneath his arms at like my face level, the tips of his feet touch my knees. He is huge. He is a gigantic cat. So kind of cool, but those are my pets.
My old cat is black as well, but he's not that big. He's lazy though, in the sense that he eats laying down. He doesn't like eating standing up. He just lays down to eat. And he just lays down everywhere. He walks to the next place where he's gonna lay down, and that's it. And we checked the vet to see if he had like any bone deformities or some stuff like that. Nope, totally normal cat, and just loves laying down.
Just lazy as fuck.
Yeah.
Keith, you technically live in a house with a lot of pets. They're just not your pets.
I have 0 pets. I do not want pets. I like pets.
He has no responsibility, but still somehow has a lot of responsibility for pets.
I don't. Yeah. I don't. I feel like I at least need to get to a spot where I'm like consistently cooking for myself before I think about like other pets. Like secure your own oxygen mask before you secure those of others. Like
it's not that deep, man. What
I don't need to add taking care of other things to the list of things where I'm not. Like I'm still working on myself.
Yeah, one of the things that surprised me is that like I've been watching Keith's channel for like 8 years now or something like that, since like at least 2014, 2015. And when I went to his house, there are fucking 4 dogs in the living room or something, and I was like, you have dogs? How do I not hear these animals in your recordings? Like you think with like 8 years of footage, I'd hear 1 bark. There's a dog in the room next to your room right now. And you're like, yeah, we have like 8 pets in this house. Like Stephanie's got like all sorts of bugs and fish and a
Stephanie
snake and dogs.
Ever, Kiki's in the room with us every time.
Yeah, it's always a mention about Kiki.
Yeah, we often talk about Kiki because she'll every now and then she'll get excited in the middle of a recording and think that and want something else to happen, and she'll start like she'll like run up and sit down and like stare patiently, but not that patiently because she's like stamping her front feet excitedly, like something's gonna happen, and then she'll loudly burp by the microphone.
It's amazing.
She burps and yawns like audibly near the microphone on a regular basis, then goes back, and you can hear the when she like jumps down from the bed, because my bed is very tall. My bed is way too tall. It's nonsensical. It wasn't really my choices that led it here.
I love that you had no choice in your bed.
No, because gifts happen at you, and then you're a bad person if you.
To be fair, bed shopping is like a pretty big thing. I reference the line in Fight Club, which is like a really weird part of Fight Club to fixate on, but like in the very beginning of Fight Club, there's a moment where a character is like, you live out of the IKEA catalog and you tell yourself, okay, I bought this couch. Now I don't need to worry about this couch ever again. If anything else happens, I have the couch situation squared away, right? And that's what buying furniture is like. So when you go to buy a bed, you tell yourself it's going to be a really simple process. You're like, all right, I just get I get a box spring and get a mattress, get like a platform to put it on. We're good. But then you like think about that and you're like, oh man, like buying a bed is like committing to like 8 years of having this bed. Like it is not a purchase that you do lightly, and it is very expensive. So I get it. I get not buying a new bed if you don't have to.
So I feel like an insane person. I don't put that much thought into it at all. I just say, hey, this one doesn't hurt when I lay on it. Okay, bye.
No, I either overthink everything in every choice so much that I'm paralyzed by inaction, or I just immediately make a call and power through any of my doubts, and probably power through several warnings people give me about why this is a bad idea, and then just keep doing it, and then just finish the thing, and then I just live with the consequences of what I've done. And very much so, when I moved here, I literally just went to the first mattress store I could find and just bought a bed.
Oh,
like just on the spot.
That's
me buying a bed was like a multi-week long process.
Twin XL. They didn't have a twin XL anywhere, so I also got stuck with a twin, so I'm taller than my bed.
Yeah, Keith is also tall, so he needs a longer bed. Wait a second.
No, okay. First of all, that is at least the fucking bare minimum. You need a bed that fits you. That it doesn't matter how comfortable it is. It needs to fucking fit you.
That's what powering through does, though. You power through 190.
I've explained my process. I don't know. I feel like I've left nothing for imagination.
What? Yeah. Go to a mattress store, lay on the bed, and make sure it fits you. That's it. That's all you have to do.
It was also really uncomfortable for like 6 months because I had to just like trust the idea that, oh yeah, this memory foam thing totally like breaks in eventually. It'll totally be comfortable one day, which is its own thing.
No, it's the other way around. Memory foam is uncomfortable at the beginning and then it gets worse. So if it's not comfortable at the begining, it's not gonna get better. Well, maybe, I don't know. People's backs are different.
Yeah, but then I was gifted a homemade bed, a homemade frame stand, whatever you call it, for the bed.
That
doesn't fit it, so it doesn't. So it's not it's not the right size for it. But but it's a gift, so I get to prominently keep using it, or else. So then. I then dealt with some kind of sleeping problems for 6 months after that, where it was like sag in the middle because it's like it's held up on the sides, but it sags in the middle, and it's not the right shape to fit in the slot because it's the frame was made too small for the mattress. So
if you ever move, I'm gonna take you bed shopping.
I then bought.
Thank God, dude. Seriously. Fuck.
So then to fix this problem, I bought a bed frame. A box spring to go between the frame and the mattress to then at least finally level it out, which is the only discernible purpose I can even think of for. I don't understand what a box spring does. It seems stupid and pointless, and like it doesn't serve anything.
I don't even know what a box spring is.
Wait a second. Hold on. You cannot say it seems stupid and pointless when you don't even spend enough time to get a fucking bed that fits you. Like, what are you talking about? Don't come here and give your passing judgments here. You don't even know how the bed works.
You add another brick under the bed, and there's more now.
No,
and like, why was this
support?
for?
The idea
the bed
is that
already.
The bed didn't have that.
My bed is like a foot thick. It does not need more support.
Okay, because you chose a bed that's a foot thick.
Yeah.
Some people don't choose beds that are a foot thick.
So at the beginning of this process, I was sleeping on the ground, by which I mean like the bed was on the ground, and I was happy with that, honestly. Like, that was fine. It was fine to just have the mattress on the floor and just hang out there. I did not need.
You know what's great about putting
frame.
a mattress on the floor is that instead of a bed frame, you can get a box spring, and that would compensate for the need for one, because at least then you have a way to raise the bed off the ground.
The bed was fine on the ground.
So one of the things here, though,
and it was cute. It was on the ground, so all 4 dogs would just kind of run over and just lay on the bed. And I'm like, oh, all the dogs are sleeping in my room because I'm the best person.
I have the best bed.
Keep saying his sleep is
one at dogs.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack here. This is.
Keith saying his sleep is terrible is really recontextualized. Please help this man. It makes a lot more sense now.
The changes to my bed did not correlate with the changes to my sleep.
No.
But nowadays the bed is now so tall between the custom frame thing and the box spring and the mattress being a foot tall that like
it is comedically large.
Stephanie is like poor Kiki is getting old. Like, is she gonna hurt herself eventually on this thing? But she so confidently continues to jump all the way up and all the way down. I don't know how she's never realized she could jump the fences we have throughout the house, because she doesn't respect them. I guess we're still talking about. I haven't talked about the pets yet, so we'll do that. But like with Kiki, she's like I think she's like a terrier and is it bulldog mix? No,
she looks like a terrier bulldog. Yeah.
Pit bull, that other one. She's like a terrier pit bull mix. So she's jacked. She's just a jacked, feisty, energetic little nightmare dog. She's great. She's perfect. She's an idiot.
Right.
She's so stupid.
Yes.
But she's extremely well behaved, but she also has anxiety. So she'll
like
behave.
Most people with anxiety.
Like whenever Stephanie's around, she behaves really well, but like the moment that she's not around, she freaks out a bit. And so one of the things is that Stephanie will like try to leave Kiki downstairs with the other dogs when she goes somewhere, so whoever's around can let her out with the other dogs, because dogs need to be let out a few times a day. And like if Stephanie leaves Kiki in her room, she might just refuse to come out. Like you can sit there and like Kiki and like pat your legs and like try to get her attention and so on, and depending on how much she likes you as an individual, she might just stare at you and kind of like eventually like tremble a bit and not go anywhere. Like she will not leave Stephanie's bed. So Stephanie tries to leave her downstairs sometimes preemptively when she's going to be gone for a while, so people can let her out to use the restroom. And Kiki will break out. She will just defeat the various fences. In fact, at one point, and there was one time where she also escaped Stephanie's fence in her room by like just pushing all the way out from under the bars, like and bending it. Like above all else, she does not respect all the barriers in this house that are made to stop the dogs. But that all the more makes me realize that she just has never realized that she could just jump the fence, because she can jump all the way up onto my bed that's way the fuck up there, that she could absolutely just jump over these fences, and she has never clocked that yet. And a lot of the orderliness of this house is dependent entirely on that, basically.
I think there's usually a lot of what is it, there needs to be some kind of drastic motivation for that. Most dogs are like, they're kind of okay with their lot in life as long as they feel comfortable and safe. If Kiki was like desperately in fear, she would just like fucking turn into a jackrabbit. She'd just be like hopping every fucking fence in a mile radius. Like,
when I first got here, when I had mentioned there being 4 dogs, Patreon asked me to make a video about it, and I was going to, and I even got as far as recording it and like talking about the dogs on camera and everything. But I hate appearing on camera so much, and especially like unscripted and so on, that I've just never released it or done anything with it. And I hate that whole experience. But we had Birch, which was a rescue husky, but he died of cancer like a few months ago. So he was here up until then. He was a sweetheart. He was like weirdly calm for a husky, and just very chill, but also just wanted maximum body contact at all times.
Thanks for that depression. Great.
The more depression. Our corgi has that spine problem right now, and forever, where she now no longer can feel her back legs, so she's kind of like falls over, but not she doesn't like fully fall over because she's a long ass dog, but like her back legs will just kind of like crumple because she can't, like, they work but she can't feel them, so she just kind of like she walks diagonally because she can't tell where they are. And the back legs just kind of like look like they're operating on ice all the time, like they're just kind of like scrambling around. And every now and then she just kind of like sits down on accident and just kind of has to like figure out how to get up again. And then we have a Shiba Inu who is just a creepy old man. He's just and we've called him a creepy old man since he was young. He's just really weird. He's like I've talked before about how Shiba Inus feel too intelligent for pets, and it's creepy. He always stands at like when you pet him, after about a second, he has like a cat-like reaction where he's like, "Why are you doing that? What are you doing?" He doesn't like, he reacts to petting too intelligently and isn't just like dumb dog into it and psyched about the experience, and so it makes you feel weird for petting him. But then he'll then turn around and like sneak up on you and just start licking between your toes like forever until you pull away. He's like very unnerving. Like
creepy old man. Then
he wants those toesies.
He would find Birch
for them toes.
Yeah, he used to find Birch where he was laying, and he would just sit there and lick Birch over and over again in one spot for like 20 minutes straight. It's just weird. He also, like, every time you let the dogs in or out to go to use the restroom, all of them are scrambling and losing their shit and like crowding the door, and they'll practically jump over each other to get through the door as it opens, like for some reason, because that's how dogs do. But he always is standing 5 feet back staring. And then walks in afterward, and then walks in after like a second of waiting. Like it's just unnerving behavior from a dog, especially in contrast to all the other dogs.
Yeah.
I like the idea that he is.
But anyway, there was the dog talk with bonus bed talk, where people have inflicted things on me.
I
take CBD pets. And everything's fine.
No need for bed frame or the other thing that I forget the name. Box office. No, which one is it called?
Box spring.
That's the one.
So, and Andrew, you have 2 pets?
I have 2 pets. I have a cat and I have a dog. We had 3 cats, but that one died 2 years ago. What's it? Shadows. I don't know. I've had Shadows since before the Let's Play began. The dog's like 11, 12 years old now. He's fine, but he's pretty much getting to his end of life. He's got like kidney failure problems. I just had to go and I just had to neuter him after 12 years of not doing that, because he had like an enlarged prostate with like a cyst or something, and the only way to lower it was to neuter him. He's just getting to that age where like he's just full of medical problems, but he's still chipper, still got energy, still happy. So
that's good.
Very normal. Doesn't act. I mean, he acts like a person sometimes because he'll act like you're supposed to do everything. But like he's like, oh, I'm gonna eat your food too, right? Or I'm gonna lay with you, right? Like he just has this expectation that he's literally going to be with the family at all times. But also high anxiety dog. So if I like go on a trip or something, he'll just stand by the door and wait until I come back. Yeah. He'll like definitely just Seymour it. It's very, he's like very much like that.
It's very surreal to watch. Because yeah, like I'd be over to record like Sonic Forces or Zero Escape or something, and you'd be like, oh, I need to get another carton of cigarettes. So you'd just go leave for like 20 minutes, and I'd be hanging out in your living room and like checking my phone, and like I would pet Shadow, and he would just not look at me. He would just sit there on top of the couch by the front door, staring at the front door the entire time you were gone. And I'm like, there's other people here, Shadow. You could. There are sources of attention you can get. Like,
that's not what he wants.
All he cares about is the fact that Andrew's not here right now.
Yeah, and it's not my own volition.
It's a lot. It's another reason why I don't want a pet is I don't want to be their entire world. That's stressful to me.
I mean, to you, think of how stressful it is to Shadow.
So
I'm not opting into that.
For context, I know you normally wouldn't train your dog to do that. You would train your dog to be a lot more, I would say, like work focused. So you would make sure it has a goal in life, which is to be either a guard dog or to live its life very comfortably. But you would train the dog to know that this is what its daily routine is. I did not do that because this is not my dog. It is a inherited dog. So I did not raise it. I did not decide its behaviors. All I can do is go from one's ownership, and I am not very good at raising things, which is why I've never owned pets on my own accord. I can't raise anything for shit. I don't even bother raising myself. So
not even cats. Raising cats is so easy.
I didn't raise this cat either. This is Mandy's cat, so I didn't do anything with it. It's just here.
So easy. You just sort of like help a little and they pop out.
What?
Yeah.
No, that's
I don't think
grow
that's
up.
true.
Sort of. That's what I mean to say. Yeah, it's like raising cats.
They just pop out. You just tell the cats to do their breathing, and then the little cats pop out.
Look at all these little cats. I don't know. I've never had to be responsible for like a cat or like an animal from conception to like, I guess, ownership. I've never had to be part of the raising process, so I'm not very good at that. And I inherited Shadow after he was like already 5-6 years old, so he was already well trained by that point, and this is the outcome of it. This is what he was trained to be. I mean, to be fair, his anxiety wasn't nearly as bad. He used to not like, he didn't have to ever be home alone because I was usually always home. But all of his anxiety is just from like obviously not obviously losing his original master. Is a lot of his anxiety is like, oh God, I don't want to be abandoned again. so I kind of understand that. And for the most part, he's not had much reason to worry, except for times when I travel out of the country for a couple of weeks.
Months.
But he's fine. I mean, okay, so Dubai was a long time. Dubai was rough for him. He did not have a fun time when I was gone that long. But but he is fine. He has survived. And I think Rudiger's actually like the same age too. I think Rudiger's pretty old too. They're both really old animals. But neither of them are. What do you want? I know we're talking about you. Neither of them are. Neither of them are uncontrollable.
Sorry. I've had the pleasure of raising cats for most of my life, and luckily for the cats, because they get to keep cool names. Most of the cats that I raised were all named after anime characters based on their personality. So we didn't name the cat until we could figure out what the cat was like. And then we had, like, for example, we had this cat. She was very scared of everything, and she was like very shut in. So we named her Komori after Kiri Komori, I believe, from
Kiki Komori, right? Or
is it
Kiri or is it a character name? Character name.
It's a character name. Yeah, it's a pun from Sayonara Zetsuba Sensei.
Yes.
We had this cat who was he thought he was the coolest cat in the world. Like at the age of 3 weeks, he thought, we could tell that cat was like, he's here to he's the bee's knees. So we named him Shimon after Shimon from Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, because Shimon is the coolest.
What?
Shmuel is the coolest. Shmuel is the best character.
What a bold read.
Yeah, well, just the fun thing about cats is that when they're babies, they're very nondescript and just sort of like you can't really tell what's going on. But then there's
They're
like
trying their best.
yeah, they're trying their best basically. But there's like a period of a week where all of a sudden they start to develop very strong personalities that mostly stick with them for most of their life, unless of course something drastic happens. Um, and like I'm not sure exactly because I'm not a cat psychologist or anything. I'm not sure why that happens, but at least that's my perception. It's like there's like I think it's like a month in. There's a week where the cat starts to become them, and that's a fun thing. That's a really fun thing. And even if you're just raising the cats to give them out for adoption, it's still cool to see that. I like cats a lot.
Cats can be nice. It just depends on what it is you're looking for in companionship from an animal. Which I think is the harder hurdle is that sometimes people will assume that there's this like default behavior in animals. It's like, nah, animals are kind of just a mess. They just will wake up one day and choose violence, and you're just along for the ride.
Cats in particular are like that. I've had cats who are super companionship oriented, and the cats that are just standoffish 100%. Cats that scream all day, cats that don't meow at all, cats that like pets. Obviously, that's the normal one. Cats that don't, and stuff like that. But I think the same thing is for dogs, but it's just less common for dogs to not be companionship oriented because they're so attention driven rather than cats who are more food driven and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons why it's easier to raise a dog. It's just because you don't have to feed them treats all the time as much as cats.
Yeah, I mean, there's also just the beginning, the origins of why they're even domesticated.
Yeah, exactly.
Cats are obviously domesticated for much different reasons.
Yeah.
When you self-domesticate, you tend to be a lot more independent still, whereas dogs are just like, this is great, everything's great, you're great, let's have a good time.
But also, everyone's pets just behave so differently when they're not there too, and they don't realize that all the time. Like my mom would recruit me to go fucking family favors, like drive out like an hour to her where she is, and like water her plants and feed her cats and take care of the litter box and so on when they're on vacation every few days. And one of the funniest instructions to me was the idea that I should hang out and socialize with and play with their cats. And I'm like, they're gone. Like, a person walked into the house, those cats are fucking invisible. Like, I can barely confirm that they haven't escaped, because they will escape and they will just vanish into whatever closet or under whatever bed, and they will not come back out until I am gone. Especially since the me arriving is introduced by a fucking alarm losing its shit for a while until I put the code in and everything. But like those cats do not want to meet me. They are not happy that somebody has entered the house that's not one of the people that lives there all the time, and they're not gonna like chill.
I assume that cats are similar to like teenage kids, where they're super stoked to be left alone in the house with the parents gone. They're like, yeah, this is great, nice, calm, peace, I love it. And then the moment someone shows up, they're like, what are you doing here? Go away. I'm going back to my room until you leave.
Yeah.
Like, definitely not I don't know. I've seen that too with Mandy's parents have like a cat that I guess they have. I've seen it once. I don't really know if it's real or not. Like, it just lives in their bedroom and it hides anytime there's anybody else in the house besides the parents.
That's what Ripley's like. She doesn't like other people, but Goofy will talk to people. He'll come out. He'll be like, "Hey, what's up?" You know, he'll have like a conversation with me. But Ripley is just like, the second someone else walks in the house, she's like, "I'm going under the bed. See ya later."
Yeah, like Rudiger will just walk out to you and just yell at you and be like, "I can't believe you're here and you're not touching me." It's like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry," but yeah, like I don't know. Cats are weird, man. Cats like have, I feel like, a lot more extreme personalities than dogs do. Dogs tend to just be There's always love somewhere, but I don't trust that with a cat.
Yeah.
No,
definitely.
yeah. It's a very different kind of the way they show their affection is very different. So it's if you don't know the cat personally, you can tell. You cannot tell.
Yeah.
The cat might be stoked to see a stranger, and it's just you wouldn't be able to tell.
So we got another question a little bit up in chat that I wanted to answer because I think it's kind of interesting. So it's from Salaf Halcyon, and they say, what is the opportunity cost of hiring an editor? Isn't most of the editing simply deleting the fat? Not my talent. It sounds like cropping an image to me. Sorry if that comes off as demeaning. I think this is a really interesting question because it is something that a lot of people wouldn't understand how to think about. But when you actually think about it, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's like sort of counterintuitive to understand at first, but the opportunity cost, at least I can explain how I feel about it. And then maybe, you all who have a little bit more output than me can also talk about it. But for example, when you are hiring an editor, you are hiring someone to do work for you. What comes with that is, all of, at least in America, like the tax, if this becomes a recurring thing that you are sending recurring payments to for a lot of money, this becomes like a tax concern. Like that person is your employee or is a contractor for you. You have to make sure that you have time set aside to deal with that. On top of that, you're paying for someone's time. So like, I'm just going to throw some numbers out here to contextualize this. If someone wanted to hire me to edit their videos, they are paying not only for my experience with DaVinci Resolve and my critical know-how of okay, this would be good to keep in a video and this would be bad to keep in a video, and I'm cutting it out, cutting it in, and adding effects to it and stuff like that. Of course, it's going to depend on the style of the video. If you want to have that punchy 10-minute YouTube video style where you zoom in on faces and have the wow, sounds and stuff like that, that's going to be a different skill set than just editing an LP, right? But you have to understand that at the hour it takes me to take a video that Keith sends me completely unseen, I have to watch that video. I have to watch the full length of that video to understand what's in that video. So that's an hour of my time. And then I need to spend an hour editing that down to whatever, because cutting out 30 minutes of video in a Let's Play does not take 30 minutes, but it also doesn't necessarily take 5 minutes. And making those cuts and making sure that that works and that the video flows correctly is not it's not a simple process. It's all right, I'm going to do this cut and now I'm going to see how does the video play correctly? Does the edit work? Is it noticeable? Is it not noticeable? Etc. Then I have to balance that around the cost of the hour that I am losing. So just throwing numbers out there, I make $46 an hour at my current job. And if I were to if that's my base value of this is what my time is worth for an hour, then you have to add all the expertise onto it and then send Keith a bill. Editing a single a single Let's Play episode is going to be close to 75, maybe $80 an episode at the current rate of hiring someone like me to do that. Now, of course, not everyone is balancing the cost of editing and their editing experience against their day job, right? And it's not equivalent. Some people have really specialized skill sets. They might be $120 a video or $50 a video or $40 a video, depending on what they have going on, what their experience level is, and if that's their actual career, if they have all the processes set up to do that. But what you're ultimately asking for is for someone to do a very high demand, high tech job for you on demand, on a schedule, just to free up your own time. So you're paying them what you would need to justify your gained hour, basically. So you're cutting them in on the increase in your output by decreasing your cut of that output. And that can be really tough to get started because you need to then like spend all the time vetting different editors to see who you like jive with, who's reliable, what their style's like, who has the best rates, who has like competitive rates for what you want them to do, and then like who actually fits into your schedule and who you can like just on a fundamental level like tolerate working with, because that becomes a like really important fixture of your channel. Like editors have personality, and like especially if you have like a video, if like a video essayist is doing this, like you constantly see them, they're like this unseen second person in a video, right? So you also have to vet their ability as a sort of invisible co-host. Like there is a lot of effort and time and money that goes
you've
into
never met before that you then trust with your voice, essentially.
Yeah, that goes into editing videos and stuff. It's just a lot of trust you have to cultivate too.
When it comes to Let's Play stuff, it's just that like we're talking about videos where each individual video makes a few dollars total.
Yeah.
So like the idea that like if anyone like if I was gonna hire anyone, I'd be hiring talent. Like I'd be trying to
co-hosts and stuff.
The first thing I would do is try to be able to pay the people I make videos with, because then they could potentially have more time to actually make said videos with me, where as opposed to like the idea of trying to pay an editor. And like for that kind of stuff, like the editor, it's like am I even saving time if I then have to like re-watch every video they edit to see if they even would making the choices that I would make, because like I don't know what they're putting out. And like if they do something weird to my video and then I get in trouble for something, then it's like, wow, you think that you would vet the content you're putting out before you put it out in front of minors and stuff or whatever the fuck, and suddenly I'm on the hook for like some choice that some other person made when I was just trying to get my Let's Plays done. Like, and then all this other stuff there. And but as far as like the thing where I'd be much more likely to consider an editor is the video essays, just because doing those massive editing projects is so grueling. But then you have the problem, which is that like I'm always doing media analysis, so this poor editor has to like put serious time in familiarizing themselves with the source material and doing basically almost as much as work as I am at thinking about it, so that they can sit there and like find the relevant clips for everything I'm talking about, when like in many cases I'm not talking about like, wow, I happened to reference a scene once. It's like, no, I'm talking about like the theme of this thing. How do you find the right footage to couple with this theme I've talked about when you've never seen this movie or anime or whatever, and it might be a multi-season show like Beastars and so on. So like, how do they even edit that? They just have to put an ungodly amount of time just to catch up with what I even know about the thing before they can even start trying to edit the footage. Otherwise, I'm just hiring someone to like string together my best takes of my audio recording, and then I have to go back and make the real video myself anyway. Editing another person is just like, incorporating anyone else into your project is a nightmare. The only way to do it is probably what Sarah Z does, where they and Emily have like they co-write.
Sarah Z, sorry.
Yeah, they they engage with the media together. They co-write their scripts together and edit them together, and then just one of them like records the face stuff for the videos, and then they probably edit it together and so on. Like, and it's just a team working on the project together the whole time through. Like I might sit down and like co-write the eventual Echo video with Toaster, because he's really invested in that and so on, and that'll be like a different experience and so on. But like the idea of like writing a giant video essay and then handing it off to an editor feels insane. Like it feels impossible to do, and that's why basically no one does. Like I can't really even think of anyone that does do that. Like I don't really know people that don't edit their own video essays besides like Quentin reviews, maybe, where he writes these nightmare 7-hour videos, and he mentions that he farms it out to like 6 different editors to each do a chunk of it, basically.
You know,
at that point you have to be making money, and I'm like, I just do not have margins. Like, and if I get margins, I'm probably gonna put them towards, you know, being able to afford an apartment one day, as opposed to like, how do I best redirect this towards paying more people so I still don't make any more money.
I've seen I think the interesting ones I've seen, which I don't know how reasonable it is. I've seen like people do multiple editors for one particular video, so you can kind of and I think that a lot of it is done as more of an intern basis. The idea is that you're giving someone the opportunity to make to edit a small chunk, so it's not like you're asking them to do an entire video for free. You can mitigate the morality there by having a lot of people do small chunks of it, but all of them are getting the not necessarily just exposure, but you don't have to you pay like a smaller amount because they're doing less work for less amount of time. And then in the interim, they're like you can get a style, or you can get a feel for how all these people will edit your stuff, and then you can kind of have a revolving amount of people that you would choose to work with. It's kind of like getting commissions from a bunch of different artists and seeing how all of them respond to that kind of work. And then you go like, yeah, this guy and this guy are consistent, but this guy and this guy are kind of wild, and this guy doesn't even know what he's doing. You know, like you could just there's like a lot of different approaches to it, but I do agree with like the way that Keith says is like I think there's definitely a lot more I think unless you're making videos like say Mr. Beast, where each video is guaranteed to get millions of views, the only issue is about the time you have to create that content. Or like what's his face? I can't remember his name now. Logan Paul. Like no, like just like people who
that is
people
kind of
whose
thing,
entire
like people
your entire
when people think of the idea of
isn't-
having an editor, they're thinking about in most cases these companies that make produced content and millions of dollars
like
are
a
on the
Linus
line.
Tech Tips, where it's like they have a style and they have employees. And,
these giant YouTube channels that have like they have an overall voice, and they have a star performer of some kind, but then they have like an editing team and a camera crew, and like they have a staff of people. And the alternative example that are people thinking of are people like Fluke Husky or other people that like make one video a week where they kind of like hang out and fuck around in front of the camera and answer questions or discuss or tell a story or something, and then they hand it off to an editor to then make it more entertaining,
just like trim it into something more watchable.
and they'd make some editing jokes, and that person that is likely treating YouTube as a side thing at that point. Like Fluke has a job and just happens to make YouTube videos, and so he just like hangs out and records for a little while, and they're like, okay, editor, I don't know, save this, fix it. and then,
like make it into something useful.
Essentially runs it all. And
It
those
also helps,
are often the kinds of people that can pay someone to make a thumbnail for every video, and it's just like a whole project. Like, and a similar alternative is when somebody is just a streamer and all they do is stream. And then there's someone
I was about to say streamers.
and there's somebody whose job it is to make the weekly YouTube video for them because they don't run their YouTube at all.
That instance, sorry, go ahead.
That was everyone at once. It's terrifying.
Sorry. I was just going to say, for the streamer angle, I think a big reason that exists is because I think a lot of the YouTube aspect of it, so like the YouTube is just turned into like a social media project. It's there just to promote the stream. And the idea is that the YouTube channel is theoretically not even run by them in that sense. It's just, here's the video. I'm going to give you like 12 hours of video footage. Here's like 12 hours of video footage. I'm going to have an editor edit it all, make the thumbnails, upload it to YouTube, and they just basically get paid by that channel. Like that's their entire income is this channel that they're running that I'm just creating a huge content dump for.
That's just meant it's just meant to promote their main income source.
And that's totally reasonable. I think that's probably like the ideal way to go about it if you're
a more equitable way.
If you can consistently output like hundreds of hours of content, that's worth it. Like if you're, like I feel bad for editors for like say one trick channels, like say an Overwatch streamer. It must be incredibly annoying to get like 15 hours of Overwatch matches and have to like pick out like the most interesting things, because like you can see
I
that
hope they would
this,
at least be like, here's some of the cool stuff that happened. Check out those ones.
Like I had a good match.
I think a lot of them do,
or whatever.
If you know. I've been watching Emong in particular, and he does this thing where he alt tabs out of a lot of even mid game. He alt tabs out of the game and types stuff up, and I don't know if he's communicating with
my
all
God.
other stuff. But
He definitely doesn't need to do that. I know he has a stream deck. He can just press a button and
Yeah, you can
send
press
us
a button to
timestamp.
make a
I think he's
notepad.
taking notes. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure at least
Jesus.
sometimes he's taking notes for his editors to be like,
It's terrifying.
Fucking Emong, just like mid fucking like
I think so. I think so.
550. That was a really good play of the game, but
like I at first I thought he was just chatting to other people like in Discord or whatever, because that's normal. But he does that so often that I like I don't know. And I mean that's something I would do, and that's something I do even like in my streams. All of my YouTube footage is streamed first, and then I edit it into a let's play. And I talk out loud and say, hey, note to editor, who is me. So I don't say the who is me part. I say, note to editor, sync up this dialogue, or like cut out my last comment because it was bad or whatever. Like there's so many, there's things in advance that I think of and say out loud even in a stream that I know I have the luxury of editing out. And like that it can apply to rants that I say.
I exclusively do that as a joke, and I never edit it.
Well, as a joke, it can work
It's
as
literally
well.
always like editor, make it so that I want it on the first try. Just skip to that part, please.
Well, like in that case though, like I mean, Colonel's getting to something
just
here.
Finish my thought.
Yeah.
I think for some, and at least for me, for some games, I think it wouldn't save time to have an editor, because the amount of communication that you have to have needs to. It's too much, and like you can cut out that communication by just having the same person do the editing.
And it's so up to debate like what even you do keep or remove from a let's play. Like there's the idea of like, do you authentically show what the game is and be honest about it, or do you cut any part that you think is too tedious or a lull in the action? And does doing that reduce the impact of what the game is even like what they even like about the game? Like people, like there's people who complain in my Fallout series that I started doing some of the inventory management between episodes.
That's wild.
Like they're like, what the fuck? I wanted to watch that. There's people that like,
I
oh my
want to
god,
see you sit in a menu for 30 minutes, piece of shit.
All the way back
Show
in
me
Dragon
where
Age
you
Inquisition
ammo.
in like 2014, there were people who were so excited when I finally did crafting on camera of my gear instead of doing all the boring menu stuff off camera. Like,
bro,
and there's just this question of like, are those the real fans that are going to stick around and keep watching, and you should cater to them, or should you
those are people that are going to be in an asylum.
Trim all these people
don't even bother with them.
or do you trim all these things that these people like because it's ruining it for everyone else, or like which parts of the experience of these like slower games do you keep? Like, should I be editing every 30-minute Fallout episode into a 10-minute like highlight reel because it's such a slow-paced game? Like, what is the correct answer?
Well, that's a good point. That's an interesting point that you bring up though, because like, so in my Last of Us playthroughs, right? Like I'm playing HUDless on Grounded, and that's like just the gimmick of that playthrough. And what that means is like, one, okay, so like I'm there to showcase how different this game is, even from playing the regular hardest difficulty when you turn off the HUD, because it changes the way the game is played entirely, because you can't rely on guns nearly as much, and it becomes much more of a close range game and very stealth oriented and tactics oriented. And what people don't realize is like kind of twofold. One, The Last of Us is a very good game for cutting content out of, because when you die, it hard cuts to black and the audio cuts out. So I can get to a point and die, and then I have a hard point to cut. So what the audience doesn't see is that a video that might be, 60 minutes long with multiple deaths in it was actually me spending 8 hours getting through something on, and like learning this process of like, okay, I am going to run to the right and encounter this enemy here at this point, take them out, and then I can immediately dive behind cover, and like the enemy that's going to come there is not going to notice me.
Tell us there's a fake gamer.
There's a lot of trial and error to that, and there's a lot of understanding that goes into it. And like I've gotten much better at these games as I've gone on. As I've said before, like I've beaten them on their hardest difficulties before. So this is like not I'm not completely going in blind, but there are moments that are truly puzzles, and I keep in a lot of me understanding and figuring out, you know, little nuances there. But there's also just the realistic aspect of recording a game like this, where like the purpose of this playthrough is not for people to see me die 45,000 times, because after a certain point, my commentary just becomes like a checklist. Like I'm sitting there and I go, okay, I know this life is a test life. So I will be like, all right, I'll like walk through a door and be like, all right, enemy on the right, kill him, dive behind cover. Okay, he's going to walk over here. I have 6 seconds. Now I'm going to walk this way. Got him. Okay, now I have to deal with enemy 4 and enemy 7 over here because I've like mapped it all out in my head. And I go upstairs. Oh, and I was headshot. Fuck, like I'm dead. You know, and like 90, like literally, it doesn't matter how much people might like me or my content or might like The Last of Us. No one wants to watch me get stuck on fucking the Pittsburgh financial district in Last of Us Part 1 grounded HUDless
or
for
do
8
they?
hours. Like truly no. Like it is it's very frustrating, difficult
market
content
for those
to watch.
Unabridged boss fight videos where like, I'm here for the story arc, I'm here for the grind, I'm here to watch the pain, and then the final catharsis.
I could kind of understand that, but yeah, like that's a huge demotivator for me playing games like Hitman or anything, which I would love to do, but like I'm not gonna spend like 6 hours like. I'm not gonna. That's a point when you would need an editor. That would be a great time to have an editor, because then I can say, here, like 45 hours of me playing Hitman 2. I need you to make this down to 5 hours.
It's like my idea for playing the new Hitman trilogy pack thing is to get together like 4 players, and we each take turns playing each level. And the rule is you can't solve the level the same way as any of the previous players. But that's like that idea.
That could be really fun. That sounds fun, but that would be a lot of editing.
It's a lot of editing. It's a lot of commitment to play this long game a slow way. But like those games, it feels like I'm missing something if I just play through the game. Like you're just gonna beat all the missions, because the whole core of Hitman is supposed to be the variability of the missions. So like playing every level once seems pointless, and it seems like a fun idea to like cycle through different people. But then there's the question of like, one, how long am I going to make this one group of people hang around this one game for like a year or whatever? But then there's the issue of like these do you edit down each experience significantly because of the fact that there's a lot of repetition and like the setup to that? And then so does it take 2 hours to record a 30-minute episode? Like, is that what it becomes in the long term? And that is kind of the question. Is like when this person said it sounds like hiring an editor is only really for saving time instead of money, and at that point it seems more like,
I don't think so.
It's more for people who have other sources of income. On that question, like for Let's Plays, it's relatively hard to use an editor to save time. Like you really do have to be like you have to have a project that does involve a lot of editing, like the equivalent of like these Neocranium or Up Is Not Jump style videos that are just like, I played a 20-hour game, but I condensed it into a 20-minute video or something. Like that would be a lot of editing. But outside of that context, doing a normal Let's Play, you're still keeping the majority of the stuff, and there's relatively little editing per episode most of the time, aside from when I'm getting stuck on puzzle games all day and trying to figure out how to fix the pacing. That like there's not that much for them to do on average. So just the process of like managing your files, maintaining a relationship with another person, communicating with them, receiving the files, reviewing the files, and all this other stuff is more time consuming than just doing it yourself. While also paying somebody a lot of money you don't have.
Is like some games in situations lend themselves to that, and other games don't. Like it's just like it's hard to edit, to decide what is good and what is not to put into a video. So you're gonna spend a lot of time working with someone on that stuff.
You raise the question you raise the issue of the dialogue or the commentary that you do in test runs and stuff. Like that's so like that applies only to certain games. Like Elden Ring for me was one of those where one of my favorite fights was the that big beetle bull thing on top of a huge mountain. I forget the name.
The Starfall
that
Beast.
That fight took me like 2 hours to beat, and I learned it very well and all that. I was stuck on a very specific type of build, so it wasn't easy. But by like halfway, I had some commentaries that I wanted to go through or to get through. I had some things that I wanted to say, and I was waiting, and I was there were like 3 different runs where I said the same thing, and only
I do that
on
a
the third
lot
one,
in The Last of Us.
because only on the third one did I actually do something interesting in the fight. It wasn't even about dying early. It was just like sometimes the fight is boring and it's not, it's not worthwhile.
Well, it's like it's trying to figure out what you want to keep in as well. Like, and again, as I said, like it depends on the game that you're playing and if it lends itself to this. But like in my Last of Us 2 playthrough, there are moments where it's like, I know I can do this. I just need to play perfectly. I need to execute, right? So I will die. I'll get up to the point where I think I'm going to make it, and I'll have said a bunch of interesting stuff, and then I'll die, and then I'll be like, okay, I need to present to the video the information I just presented, make it sound natural, but also like understand internally that I already said all of this stuff. So it's like, all right, that last take was a bad take. I don't think it's insincere. I don't think it's faking the video. It's just like, I need to remember to point out, like, for example, like I die in The Last of Us, I get to a checkpoint. Usually in my own monologue, I'm saying like, oh, okay, we have a checkpoint now. And even though I know that we have a checkpoint and I die, I know that I'm going to cut out that death because it's just useless footage. So no matter what, after that death, every single time I respawn, I just end up saying to myself like, okay, we have this checkpoint now, because I know that eventually in the final cut, in however much time it's going to be, that will be new information for the audience. And, in some games, you don't need to edit out all those deaths. You don't need to edit out that content, but it also brings into question what you want to do with these videos. If I'm just playing Elden Ring and Dark Souls, I'm not going to edit out every death. It's not really a big deal for me to be like, all right, we haven't, like, my commentary there isn't going to be that special, so I can just leave that shit in. It's fine. But for Last of Us, Grounded HUDless, I'm trying to show people what the game looks like and how you approach it in this section in this style. You don't want to, like, it's just not conducive to the goal of the video to leave in 45 minutes of me not being masterful at the content, and it's one of those things where you have to really balance that.
Like I'm watching right now, I was thinking of Tomb Raider 1, and I was like, I don't want to replay it again. I'm just gonna watch a 100% all secrets gameplay long play walkthrough thing on YouTube. And it's very obvious that there's cuts that the person, it's not a single speed run of the game, but the final result is a speed run 100%. It's
kind of like a segmented run.
yeah. So there's just some cuts here and there, but it really is just down to how you want what the end result is. No, it's not like it is a creative decision on the part of the Let's Player. And it doesn't have to be as wild as that time I cut out all the combat from Fallout 3.
That's what I was thinking about. We're talking about editing projects. You just every time you got into a fight, just
cut it out.
Out of an entire playthrough.
And it's seamless.
Wild.
People were like, why do you not fight? Why are the super mutants docile? What's going on? Because I was making a point in that time in that Let's Play. But it could be other simple things. Like, for example, something I do a lot is I know in advance that I can just cut out all of the travel time. So I just treat it as fast travel. I just like, the quest sends you, oh, now you need to go 10 minutes away from here. And I actively just say, no, I can fast travel and fade to black and do the YouTube shenanigans. But that's where the communication comes in. I think if you have an editor for that sort of stuff, you need to build a working relationship that will take longer than actually just doing it yourself. I feel.
And that is the opportunity cost, right? Like that's the time you have to put time in up front with an editor, and then who knows how long they'll be there, right? Like that's the other concern is like if you form a channel identity or a editor identity, or even like a partnership, right? Like that's what it is. If you're doing a video essay, in some sense, like getting an editor to edit that is also asking them to devote a bunch of time and be dedicated to this topic you want to talk about, because they're going to be watching the same content so that they know how to edit it. Editing an Echo video essay, for example, is not as simple as just getting like 8 hours of footage of Keith talking and then just putting it in the order that makes sense. It's like that also precludes the editor spending 50 hours playing all of the roots of Echo so that they have an understanding of what the hell he's talking about. And then it also means they need to invest whatever time they need to understand the text so that they can edit it as well. And like that's its own, the
it's all stuff
complicated thing.
It's stuff that's hard to casually engage with. It's like how, like my dad used to work out of a shop, self-employed, and it was not a good setup. But he didn't want to hire anybody because whenever he did, like it was just as likely that instead of saving time, they would finish their shift, he would look at their work, and he'd have to like then spend the next day fixing what they did instead. And so it's like literally the death of progress, but that person is still entitled to their pay and everything. Like you can't just not pay them, but also like they might actually make your life worse. Even, like it's rough. Like being a YouTuber means doing almost all of it yourself until you're a millionaire.
I haven't watched Linus Tech Tips in a while, so I don't know how things are these days. But I remember like it's a big technology.
Yeah, probably the biggest tech channel on YouTube.
And Linus, the head person, the founder of the channel, he a couple of years back he had some videos talking about like he worked his ass off more than now that he had so many people working for him than before. I mean, part of that is because
you got to maintain that. Yeah.
Well, he went from being a YouTuber to like a CEO of a company.
Yeah. So part of it is just, of course, the quality that you have to keep raising. I mean, the videos are better, right? So that also, of course, is going to increase the work time. But it's also, I think, just managing people is always going to be such a huge part of any company, small or big, and it is big. Like there's a reason why startups are valued for their growth capabilities, because you have a company that starts out as a 20 people and 2 years later has 200 and 2 years later has 2,000. That is really difficult to pull off. Not just in terms of keeping the profit, or I mean, startups don't work on profit, but or not necessarily, but not keeping the work coming, but also just managing people, because those 20 people from the beginning are so important, but they're dwarfed from by the new people that show up.
Yeah,
and it's obviously that's hyper growth, but anytime anybody is hired is just like, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. We got another question, a really fun one, one that I think Colonel and I are really well positioned to answer. But Positron asks, if you had a 1998 PC with you in a remote hut, which game would you take with you? Would you do anything else other than turn on a computer in a remote hut after gaming as a job for years? This is rough because 1998 is like one of the
PC game.
Oh, I know exactly what games I would have.
Yeah, I was gonna say Colonel. I feel like I know what games Colonel's gonna pick.
Yeah, so it depends on what part of 1998. Well, it's not about 1998 games. It's games that can be played on that kind of computer.
Sure. Yes.
And so if I can go first, basically that's I started playing computer games at around that time, maybe 97 a little, but properly 98 on my cousin's computer. He had a Pentium 3, I think, at the time.
Yeah, it would be 2 or 3.
And a Riva TNT2, I think, the graphics card that he upgraded and stuff.
Bro, I bet you only had like fucking 128 megabytes of RAM. What a fucking
yes.
That would be a lot back then. That would have been a crazy gaming computer.
He had 120.
Come on, man! You needed at least 256 to play EverQuest in like 2000.
No, 256 is Pentium 4 time. No, Pentium 3.
That's like 2004 RAM.
Yeah.
Nah.
I mean, my first computer had 512 megabytes. It was an Athlon XP 2600 plus. 2.03 gigahertz. Let's go. No, but let's not. No, we're talking games here. Yeah, the answer is very easy because it's just the games that I played at the time that I know work and I have nostalgia and love for, which would be Fallout 1 and 2, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, StarCraft, GTA 1 and 2, more GTA 2, Crazy Taxi. Oddly enough, that game was fun. I spent so long,
was Crazy
many
Taxi
hours.
on PC?
Yeah. Oh, at that time. Well, we're not talking. Yeah, we're just not talking. I'm talking like games that the computer can play, not necessarily at the time, because Fallout 2 only came out late 98, and StarCraft, the expansion also came out in '98, I think. Then Diablo, and I would perhaps the most important one, because it's actually difficult to play these days, The Sims 1.
The Sims 1 is a big. It would be a big one.
Sims 1.
It would be.
Yeah.
I was just.
I wouldn't. Yeah, but I wouldn't play The Sims 1 without mods. There's no way.
I
I'd
never
be
played
playing,
with
like
mods.
vanilla.
I just had the
vanilla.
expansions.
What, dude?
I
The
never
mods
played
for
with
Sims
just-
1 were
just the
the
expansion.
best. Vanilla
I'm
Sims is
sure.
so bad.
I just didn't have
Like-
internet. I couldn't do. I could barely do the expansions, let alone.
There were so
everything
many
else.
furniture mods for Sims 1. It was insane.
yeah,
I remember going on like these weird ass websites and being
Yeah,
and they're
Mod the
just, like,
Sims. Mod the Sims.
yeah, there's like here's like 15 different furniture packs that like they're free. Here you go, enjoy them. And you're like, oh, these are amazing furnitures. It's just what a weird time.
I think my
Sims 1
first
was
real
incredible.
PC game was Age of Empires 2, which didn't come out until 1999. So
You would
1998,
still be
me
able to
only
play it.
really knew about that weird Jurassic Park demo disc thing. You know what I mean? Where you
I
like
know what you're talking about.
the one where you
yeah.
like went through like a museum and then like a Jeep section and then a part where a running T-Rex demo video turned into a skeleton with googly eyes. Like that entire video, like that entire game thing, which I think you can find in a browser site somewhere now. Did I do a Let's Try of that? I thought about it because I tracked it down on like an
probably
archive
on the
site
Internet
somewhere. And
Archive.
I was just very amused by it.
Yeah.
That was a weirdly terrifying game for a child. It was just so it was like old uncanny graphics crossed with a lot of other creepy ideas. Like it was just the game was really unnerving. And going back to it still is weird to me. Although I also remember playing. I played like Myst for like 5 minutes and it was incomprehensible to me on my grandma's computer once,
same here.
and that also scared me.
Yeah, Myst had a really weird atmosphere as a child who knew nothing about the world or video games.
Yeah, a lot of
alien.
A lot of PC games had like an uncanny aesthetic to them that was really unnerving as a kid when you were used to looking at like
Creepily
Nintendo
still and
64
quiet.
games. Yeah. Did not like them.
If I had to pick something from back then, you know, if I had to pick just from 1998, like there are obvious like big ones like Fallout 2, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, you know, moving forward to stuff that like could be played on a system like that, like Planescape Torment would be one that I would like to keep. But honestly, around that time, 1998 was such a huge, like historically important year for video games. Truly, so many incredible video games came out in 1998.
Yeah.
My favorite JRPG of all time came out in 1998. That's Panzer Dragoon Saga for the Sega Saturn. Tons of really important fighting games came out just like right around that time. I think Third Strike was 1999. Darkstalkers 3, Vampire Savior came out in 1998. So like the question of if I only had a 1998 Metal Gear Solid, exactly, Ocarina of Time.
The first one came out in 98?
Wow.
Yep.
StarCraft.
Yep, the first
Grim
Solid came out in
Fandango.
1998.
Thief.
Yeah, but these are all
Baldur's Gate.
games on a PC though. These are all games that you can't have on a PC.
So
That's
Baldur's
the
Gate
problem.
then.
Baldur's Gate you could have on a PC for sure. But
Half-Life as well.
that's I think the issue is like making the choice between PC games really limits it. There wasn't much.
Yeah.
It also depends on if I have people there, right? Like, does this PC have an internet connection? If so, like, like I could spend a lot of time playing Half-Life Deathmatch or like Team Fortress 2 or something, or Team Fortress.
Yeah,
but then
PC,
like
PC players at least have Half-Life, StarCraft, and Fallout 2 and Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then like if you look at like, I mean, another opportunity is
Turok
like if this is
2.
just 1998 anything, you know, like fuck that. I'm getting a Darkstalkers cab, and if I have someone else there with me, we're playing Darkstalkers till the end of days. Like fighting games could last you forever. So it just depends on what the circumstances are. But that would be my pick, is probably any of the great PC RPGs that came out at the time, just as well because of their depth and their replayability.
The depth is surprisingly shallow, though. So I think particularly more for Baldur's Gate than for Fallout.
Yeah,
but
1998 video games. Let me pick one that I probably would like a lot.
But like multiplayer is tricky because that's where things have evolved the most. Like for example, Half-Life 2. Like if you go play the original Counter-Strike, or I think in '98 it might have been only Day of Defeat or something like that. Um, it's bad. It's a bad time. It's a really bad time. Like I think, or Unreal Tournament, the original one, they're fun for a little while, but then like you're used to so much better.
Okay, so I would for sure
Fighting games are different, though,
have I would have Hot Wheels Stunt Track Driver. It's a great one. Pretty good experience there. Let me see. What else do I have here? I would probably also have Genome. I think Genome was really dumb. I think that was 98, right? What was that? Genome
I
was
didn't
96.
constrain
Yeah,
myself.
So Genome would be
98.
there. Well, I'm thinking of not stuff that's past 98. I'm thinking of anything
Right.
that's 98 and before, which isn't a lot, but what? Oh, Roller Coaster Tycoon is 99. Very close. I would have had Roller Coaster as well. Hunt Challenge. No,
I'm not
that's
looking at
99.
lists. I probably should.
There's not a lot of games. I'm trying to think of like when I was younger, I spent a lot of time doing management sims. I don't know why. I thought I was going to be like a CEO of like literally every single field of fucking business. Like I have every sim game. I have Sim City, I have Sim Isle, Sim Safari, Sim Streets of Sim City, Sim Copper, Sim Tower, Sim City Classic,
Wow.
Ski Resort Tycoon, Fast Food Tycoon, Zoo Tycoon, Mall Tycoon. Like like what the fuck? What was I gonna be? I was gonna be like a fucking business owner for an entire country? Like what is this? I don't know why I own every single simulation game. I think my
missed your
parents just
calling.
hoped that I guess I miss my calling. I do feel really indignant when I see things poorly run because I feel like I could probably do it better just with a lot of
we know.
yeah. So yeah, so that's where that came from. It's because I literally was really good at every single sim game on the planet. So I have an indignant CEO attitude towards everything. I would probably
gives you more life skills than most actual edutainment games.
That's probably true. You're like I think
I used to
Roller
freak
Coaster
out my
Tycoon is-
elementary school teachers by being able to pronounce like Tenochtitlan and stuff and knowing about things because of Age of Empires.
Yeah,
I had the oh Diablo. I would have Diablo. Diablo was out in '98.
Diablo 1 though.
Diablo. Yeah, Diablo 1's fine. Dude, Diablo 1
You
has
can
some
play
great
Diablo 2
lines.
though.
You don't remember the iconic fresh meat.
I've only played Diablo 1 once for like an hour for Let's Try, and I'm like, why am I? You can't run? Oh no.
Oh my god, nothing is more funny than when you go up to a barrel and you're like, look at all these barrels, and you hit one and a skeleton pops up and you're like, uh-oh. Like, wait a second, I didn't want an encounter right now. Like,
Fine.
Why is xylophone music
easy.
playing around this barrel?
yeah, it's like great. Like you're low on health and you're like, oh, I know there's gonna be food in here, and you hit it and a skeleton's like, hi. You're like, like what are you doing there?
In barrels? No.
You get health potions. So there would be health potions inside of the barrels. And so, but sometimes there'd be skeletons, which you don't want when you're looking for health. You're not particularly like, yeah, I want to fight when I'm low on health. There was a lot of fun because it had that really dumb, like limited field of view because it's such an early game. And so there's like these points where you could definitely walk off and, or like wall, like basically hallways you can go down. You can go down a hallway and not realize that there's a lot of people coming after you because you just didn't turn the corner long enough to know how many people there are. So you would go down a corner and be like, oh, okay, I don't want to go that way. And you walk around and then like just out of nowhere, you'd have like 3 people coming after you. You're like, I didn't even know there's people in this room. I didn't go into it enough to even see them, but they know I'm there. And now they're coming after me. Diablo 1's a great experience. It's like now Diablo's so boring, but before it used to be such a threat. Like every moment of your life was a threat. Now you are a threat to everything.
I played the beta for Diablo 4, and I'm so disconnected from my experience back in the day when I played Diablo 2 ad infinitum. Like solo found, completely single player, no multiplayer whatsoever. And not following any meta builds whatsoever at all, ever.
Yeah.
And just figuring it out all by myself. like that's not even what people were playing the game like back then, let alone how they were playing Diablo 3 or Diablo 4. So it's just like that experience doesn't
really exist anymore.
Doesn't exist. Yeah.
But Diablo 2 is my mother's favorite game until Resident Evil 4 came out. So I have like thousands of hours in Diablo 2. That's definitely one that could just like I could lose time into just because.
Caesar 3 came out as well. Sorry.
I'm trying to. I guess realistically, I would probably end up having like a shit ton of retro games. I'm trying to remember now, and I think like.
I mean, by definition,
Pac-Man, Centipede. Well, no, I'm just saying like, yeah, by definition. But I meant like I meant to say arcade games. I would have like a lot of arcade games in there, because I played a lot of them growing up by force. Like that was what I was forced to play a lot, and so yeah, so like. I think, yeah, like that would probably be the majority of the games I would probably boot up with would be those, just because they're also very high replayability, like Galaga, Pac-Man, Centipede, Missile Command. Those are games that you can just keep playing over and over again for a pretty long period of time. It's kind of like how old people play solitaire. It's the same kind of concept. You're kind of just doing something that you feel comfortable with doing, but it's not actually taking a lot of your bandwidth to do it. Like you don't have to.
Yeah, it's like something to do with your hands.
Yeah. You're keeping your brain going, but you're not overworking it. Like you're tired, you're exhausted, you don't need to do that kind of work anymore. So you're gonna do something that's still fun, but isn't going to tax your like capacity to think. You're not gonna exhaust yourself by the time it's like lunchtime.
It's like top 500 players in Overwatch play.
No. Top 500 players are like wasting too much of their precious limited time on this.
No, I'm kidding.
Thinking. Those are types of games that you can also, I think, are also what's the word? They're easy to bring other people into too. So if you're not alone in the world, at least you could be like, here, play this game. Let's go for high score. I guess there's like something to do with them. I don't know. I guess Pac-Man has a multiplayer option. You could just play 2 players in Pac-Man. But those are the types. I think really the fight will just be getting the stupid operating system to load anything fast enough for you to want to
Windows 98 with its
your attention span. Your attention span is probably the biggest threat to you because
just booting it up takes forever.
Completely. Yeah. People don't know what they have today. People are.
No, they don't.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've spent previous podcasts and like Overwatch stream times complaining about how frustrating Windows 11 has been for me lately. But like, we don't remember how good we have it now because like, back in the day, Windows 98 had almost no bloatware on it by comparison and still took 6 minutes to start up while you waited for the computer to just load.
The downtime of old video games, not even that old of video games. Like I remember playing Oblivion on the 360 and 50% of my playthrough was just watching that progress bar slowly move and mostly sit still.
Well, it's weird because like nowadays people are like, load screens.
Really?
Easily half your time playing Oblivion is just fucking waiting for the game to load every time you open any door or go anywhere.
You must have had your computer must have been below the
360
recommended things.
No way.
On the console, right? Right. Yes.
You used to just wait for video games
PC experience
forever.
The PC experience on a 3-year-old computer at the time was like amazing. It was super fast. Everything was so fast.
Well, the thing too though is that like we've only been without loading screens, quote unquote, for like not even a generation. They still exist, of course, but like people will be like, bro, I had to wait 40 seconds to like respawn in a game. It's these loading screens are unbelievable, and it's like, dude, have you ever like saved a game on a PlayStation 1 JRPG? Because like making a save file in Final Fantasy 9 takes 45 seconds. The screen isn't even on a progress bar. You're just sitting there hoping it didn't break.
Even without the actual act of saving taking time, the surrounding menus being so time consuming, even when I'm playing like an emulator on PC, make me not want to like. I genuinely do like mental like. opportunity cost math in my head of like, is it worth stopping to save? I have to sit through, I have to click through like 6 menus to do it because it's like a Silent Hill game or something. Like, is it worth it? Is it worth
or like
saving
Silent
right
Hill's
now?
a good example. You press the start button to pull up the menu, and there is like 5 seconds of black before the menu actually fades into the game.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like people just like don't have the patience for that sort of thing because they're so used to things happening quickly. But it also, I mean, this gets into a kind of cool topic, which is just like the way we interact with games and like what we're used to has changed, but it like doesn't, it's like there's like a completely different pace of video gaming now, even with like slow analytical introspective art games nowadays. Like those experiences go by so much more quickly than they used to, and the way that we think about them and the amount of time we have to actually sit with them is drastically different than it used to be. Because you know, you just literally had to spend more time playing them because they were slower and had more downtime, and we used to really cherish that. Like that was like part of the atmosphere of a game, was like just how much time you had to literally spend in it. And nowadays, because there's so much coming out and because there's so little attention span, we're just trying to get through everything as quickly as possible, and in some cases that makes a game better. But
I think our lives are different, but it's not just about attention span. It's also the stories that the games told at the time. When I say stories, I don't, that's not what I mean. Like the place they occupied in our minds, at least in my experience, was very different because games were more newer and a newer medium, and the opposition of the new things that you could do in gaming in comparison to everywhere else, like in what you saw in movies or what you had in books or whatever. And so because of that, we were just okay with you know, spending a whole afternoon messing around with a file editor or map editor for StarCraft 2 and not do anything anyway. I mean, that still happens, but it's for it's for specific games, and I think specific people even. In general, it's just games have to compete with themselves all for like 20 years. They have to show something new these days, and that's what happens is they get more efficient at competing. Otherwise,
definitely agree. I think you're onto something there, where it's like, you know, it's not even necessarily that games are like self-conscious of the ways they used to be. It's just like there is some degree of like efficiencies and stuff where it's like, okay, well, maybe we should avoid, you know, being like this or like taking more time than we need to, because we can be more efficient and more masterful. Instead of just trying to forge some sort of new, you know, forge our way forward in an industry that we know nothing about, in a medium that we know nothing about back then. But like, you know, it's interesting. It's a trade-off. I've always said, you know, people, I've harped on this. I think I talked about this in the Signalis spoiler cast, but like I don't really believe in the idea of a game aging poorly. Like I think good games back then are still good games now. Like the thing, like it's not like people back then were cavemen who had low standards and didn't just didn't know what was good. Like Fallout 2 nowadays is still as good as Fallout 2 was back then. It's just you have to approach it in a different way, and a lot of people don't have that mode with which to approach it. I think that's more of an issue on the player side than it is on the game side. And that isn't to say that like, some games are old and crusty, but like it's interesting to look at now, because like we're still like, games nowadays still are paying homage and paying respects to stuff that was like done back then. And in a lot of ways, there are games from back then that they're like covered in the crust and grime of time and modern efficiencies. You know,
go ahead. Sorry.
They're still good.
From a gameplay perspective,
just because a game doesn't have a specific feature like autosaves or something doesn't make the game trash. It's just like, it was different. They just didn't. That wasn't a core priority when they were making the game. Those are things that you have to, like, you just had to endure at that time period. But the quality of the game doesn't go down because it lacks this one distinct
Yeah.
feature that they didn't invent for the next 20 years. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Like
the design of the game can still be good and interesting.
Yeah, that's the gameplay can, but I think the story of any game can age though. Like I think
Sure.
I look at
We think about contexts, right? Like
no, but yeah, well, I don't know. It's tricky though, because games in particular have done this thing for they stopped doing it more or less recently, where they just copy other mediums and pretend that it's brand new. Like for example, a game that I enjoyed a lot, is it Godfather? What's the name of that Mafia? Mafia, yeah, Mafia 1. Mafia 1 was
Mhm.
just a rehash of movie tropes. And so
Yeah.
many kids like me when I played it, we saw that and we never saw the movies, and it was just like, oh, this game is look at all this interesting dynamics, and it's just a rehash.
Yeah.
Like, and games kept pulling that off for decades. They did that since
no,
the 80s.
completely.
And I think that ages though. That's the sort of stuff that stops working. And when you go back and you read, or I suppose the thing is, we're also going back and we're older, so it's difficult for us
Yeah.
to look at something that when we were young, like, oh, this love story is so beautiful, and now we go back and it's just like, oh no, it's not. It's terrible, or whatever.
Yeah. I think with part of that, but there is something worth noting about that, which is like you can still tell a story that's been told 1,000 times well, and like of course some games didn't, and we were just making do with what we had, and there was just a novelty of like, oh, this is the first thing to do this in a video game, and you know, something like Mafia maybe struggles with that. Just being the first sort of cinematic Mafia video game that ever existed that like managed to kind of do it right. But I do think, you know, you can still say like this wasn't that this wasn't a big deal isn't necessarily true, because, you know, there are still games from back then that were amazing back then that still do things better than games that are trying to do that same thing now.
100%. Yeah.
You know, and like I think about JRPGs as an example. I'm not really trying to talk shit about JRPGs, but I think an industry conversation right now is that JRPGs currently are sort of a dying genre in the same way that survival horror was in the mid 2000s, because there aren't as many coming out, and they are not hitting their critical acclaim, and they're not being embraced by consumers nearly as much as they used to be. Panzer Dragoon Saga was way ahead of its time in 1998. It was an incredible game, and it does stuff that like modern JRPGs are still trying to find answers to, like on a game design perspective. They're like, how do we solve around random encounters and like making interesting battle systems? And it's like, that's a thing that Panzer Dragoon Saga did. Like it has those answers. It's just no one followed up on them. It never got internalized. So there's definitely still cool stuff to mine back then. Like just because it's old doesn't mean that it has been superseded. Because in a lot of ways, like a lot of retro games, that was a weird period of time for gaming where everyone was doing different things. There was no communication between developers. People were just forging into the unknown. And like, frankly, as a result of that, like a lot of really cool ahead of their time games got completely lost to time. They just didn't find an audience. And now, because people are not going back to play those old games nearly as much, and they're not as accessible, and there's a million reasons for it, you know, there's still some actual hidden gems, like games that people could play and get a lot of enjoyment out of now, if they only were able to get over like the lack of an autosave or like the lack of of camera control on your right stick, you know, like,
or the game just
because the game doesn't have that doesn't mean it's not useful.
As fast.
Yeah, no sprint to make you just like fly through the game world.
Just games where like every menu and every bit of movement and every bit of combat just needs to be happening faster. Like, oh my goodness.
But those games were bad back then as well. Not necessarily as a whole, but like for example, what's that game that has you had a Let's Play, Keith, like a Western sort of JRPG that has enormous.
I was literally just thinking. I was literally just thinking about it because I was about to bring up about like talking about older games that are completely out of their time, and how weird of an experience it is to play both Kodelka and an Acronox.
Anachronox, that's the one that I was thinking. Because at the time, it was people complained about it. It's like going back and playing Gothic 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah.
People complained about the control system back then of Gothic 1 and 2. Like even simpler stuff like Fallout 1 and 2, the sort of right click to change the cursor type.
Yeah.
Back then, people were complaining about that because it was just like, it's not very intuitive. But it's the solution that they got to allow you to do stuff that other games couldn't do.
This is an amazing point, Colonel, because you just reminded me way back in the day. I think it was the first, maybe Medal of Honor. I could be wrong about this, but there was one of the first-person shooters ever to use dual stick controls, where you control your camera on your right stick and your movement on your left.
Like that arcade game we played that only I was good at.
In reviews. It was torn apart. It was
was not Medal of Honor.
This control, or it was Alien. It was Alien 3. That's what it was. And people were like, "This weird control scheme that's by default will never catch on. Go into the settings and change it." And nowadays, if you put someone into a legacy first-person shooter controls where it's tank controls and you're moving you're turning left and right by moving left and right, and then can only move forward and back. Yeah. Like people are like, "What is this? This feels like mud." Like people were objectively not correct back then. Like people had bad takes back then. Yeah. That has also not changed. Like it is very possible to find a game that was either lauded or derided back then that definitely does not hold up and like was just a weird product of its context. But I do, that's a good point.
No, I think you're right. Maybe I am over. Definitely, I am over generalizing. But I do remember playing Medal of Honor on the PlayStation, and I had played shooters on PC, and I did not like the control scheme because it was tank controls. And it was like, oh, that's cute, but it works better on Tomb Raider. It's like part of the puzzle, and not as I'm trying to shoot this Nazi here.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, I think that you're right though in a lot of respects. Though I guess is what I'm getting at, which is like. Things of their time, people did view them through those lenses, right? And it's hard to divorce a game's legacy from what people were talking about contemporarily, because like a lot of these people aren't going back to look at these games and see what they're actually like in a modern context.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just enjoy very strange dead ends. Like Kodelka having fully like mo-capped cutscenes performed by like stage performers that were genuinely giving their all in a PS1 game is a hilarious contrast, and that like cutscenes would not reach that level of quality until like the Xbox 360 era. We literally went several console generations without getting Kodelka level cutscenes ever again, almost exclusively, like because like they were genuinely like horribly performed all throughout like the entire time I was growing up. So it's finding a game that was like 10 years older than when I first saw what I felt like were good performances was just fucking surreal.
Yeah. Well, and then that was my experience with Panzer Dragoon Saga. Like that's a game that came out in 1998 that has it's a 4-disc long JRPG that has full voice acting and motion capture. And that's unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then like Anachronox is genuinely just a baffling evolutionary dead end strange game where it has those impossibly large environments for seemingly no reason that you have to fast forward through because it just takes so long to get around, but like it was this giant sprawling like walk around game that had JRPG turn-based combat, but then most of the story progression was triggered via like adventure game gameplay where you literally toggled into having like a adventure game clicky mouse to interact with the environment and use object on object to figure out how to like proceed with the story. It was just it's just an incredibly strange game. I love finding really weird shit like that just no one really talks about, but it's just like a very just odd product.
Same.
Like I think
because I think a lot of people shy away from it at the time. Well, specifically in regards to Anachronox, like it's like the people who played the Psychonauts back then. So many people was like, it's not really my style. But those that did is like, oh, this is a really good stuff. This is a really good game. And I mean, Anachronox maybe not so much, but I I grew up hearing people say, "Hey, Anachronox is really good. You should try it." And then I looked at it and I was like, "No, I shouldn't."
Yeah. I think we've all been through that.
Or I just think about how like Spec Ops: The Line got beat to market by like 15 years by like Silent Bomber, the edgy JRPG version of Bomberman, where you're like a terrorist for the state essentially, and like the tutorial has you just following instructions like you always do in tutorials, but it fucking ends the tutorial with you like murdering women and children at the order of the state because you're following the tutorial, and it just fades to black with like fire and the screen going black and just like a baby crying and then being silenced in a fucking PS1 game that's basically a ripoff of Bomberman, and it's just fucking surreal. And it's like, oh wild. Yeah, you thought the white phosphorus scene was inventive? I grew up playing this bullshit.
Press F to pay respect.
That is,
but then it has a chess boss that fights you with chess. Because it was a PlayStation 1 game and it was still insane.
Yeah. So we did get another question, and it's just, what is the most annoying game you've Let's Played? I know my answer right away. What is everyone else's?
Jesus.
Oh, I have one at the top of my mind, but I'm going to think a little bit about it. Maybe?
Mine is...
Kind?
Yeah. Mine is Fatal Frame 4, probably.
Oh, okay.
Fatal Frame 4 was really frustrating and disappointing and just a very bad game to play and not a very good port. And it was a bummer. Granted, I've only Let's Played like a few games for the channel. It's not the most annoying game I've ever played, but it was a profoundly annoying experience, especially to stream with a live audience, because like, boy, is 95% of that game walking at an extraordinarily slow pace.
That, I mean,
my go-to example is probably always gonna be Anima: Gate of Memories, which is this indie game from 2016. No, Alone in the Dark was fucking hysterical.
Great.
I would not trade getting stuck in that driving section for an hour for anything. That, like,
oh man,
that's the thing, is if the game being really awful is an incredible experience, then I got exactly what I signed up for. And even though it's like you losing your mind over the process of it, at least there's that. But no, the some games are just bad in uninteresting, stupid ways, and are bad, dumb, and their first game uses a colon correctly, but their second game has a floating colon where it's not attached to the word before it. That's everything. People trigger my fight or flight response every time they tell me that Anima has a sequel now. And I'm like, I want to escape. Oh god,
this is one of those rare moments where Keith talks about a video game that I've truly just never even heard of. This thing has completely passed me by.
No, Anima: Gate of Memories is just just one of the truly most awful video games that I have ever played. And it's specifically, it's somebody who very clearly played Nier and thought Nier was neat. And so, but they didn't understand anything about why Nier was neat. So they just kind of made an incredibly low quality action RPG where you have a book that talks to you as you proceed through this big grassland from like plot point to plot point. And it's like
the first image I see of this game upon Googling it is a skill tree that looks like it has 7,000 nodes on it.
Yeah, and none of it's interesting or impactful or helpful or good. Anima: Gate of Memories,
no.
like almost like basically every element of it is bad. Like you play the tutorial mission and you have like a cold open where you fight a witch lady that's gonna come up later more or whatever, and like she fucking has like her microphone, her indie voice actor is like has a clipping microphone. Like there's a lot going wrong just in general, but the combat is genuinely awful every second of the game. The platforming is worse, and it does have platforming that you have to get through to get through the game. The art style looks okay at a glance, but it wears thin incredibly quickly. I don't remember a single bit of the plot, but I'm pretty sure I hated that too. But like above all else, like it's one of those games where when it's bad in like brutally uninteresting ways, where like you get stuck in these boss fights where you just have to keep spam attacking and you just aren't making any headway whatsoever towards killing them, and you have to deal with the same attacks over and over again. And there are boss fights I think I genuinely was in for 10 minutes straight, not because I was dying, but because it was one attempt of just trying to whittle down this stupid shit boss fight. And like, it's like, I don't know what I was doing. Like, if they wanted me to like grind somewhere in a game that's not about random encounters, like I was supposed to just run around and clear that one green field over and over again for hours to be a higher level or something. Like, I don't know if I was the wrong whatever, but it was just an incredibly tedious nightmare experience that I just wanted out of. It's one of the first games that made me break my rule about even trying to do commentary, where at some points I just sat there and like button mashed on this boss fight for 10 minutes straight in dead silence, just seething, and then finally was like, fuck you, when they finally died. And I was like, and I would startle people by suddenly speaking again.
Yeah.
And like, I would just, out of like pain, I would reduce the difficulty down to the easiest difficulty at some point just to get through some of these boss fights faster, and it wouldn't help. Like nothing would make them die faster, and they just weren't interesting fights, and it was just a brutally awful game, and it was never funny for it. So it was just like, it wasn't even why I would play bad games on purpose. It was just a game I regretted starting and should have never continued. And it was not worth documenting for posterity. I should have fucking run fleeing into the hills like when I played Dynasty Warriors 9 for an hour.
A game that truly should be forgotten by time.
Yeah.
You haven't privated the videos though yet.
No. Because questions like this make me mention it, and then somebody else goes back and checks it out, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I don't even want to watch this."
Don't even get the ad revenue for it.
They get all curious about it, and they're like, "Never mind." Actually,
for me, the game that was at the top of my mind is the game I looked through my list of Let's Plays, and yeah, Pathfinder Kingmaker is the most.
Oh, of course, I knew it was going to be this one.
And it's annoying for very many reasons, but like the simplest reason is that it's a promising game at the start. The writing for being a game made by non-native speakers is very decent in terms of its prose. It's the introduction of the story is very enticing, because it's like, oh, this wild lands, and there's this villain there that thinks he's the king. You're just gonna go in there and do this stuff for your baron or whatever, and get rid of this bad person. And of course, it's a game based on Dungeons and Dragons, or I mean, it's the rule set is not Dungeons and Dragons, but it's the rule set based on Dungeons and Dragons, the Pathfinder rule set. So it's a real time with pause game, so it's always going to have that sort of dynamic of it's a rule set made for turn based, but it's a real time with pause game. And in that, it was very promising. The first time I played the game, I was like, oh, it feels interesting, because it's a slow paced kind of real time. You kind of, at the beginning of the game, you kind of feel every hit, and you can kind of tell what everything is happening. And this is something that only turn-based games kind of pull off. In real time, you just sort of like watch the gameplay itself. But Pathfinder Kingmaker wasn't like that at the beginning, and I don't think it ever was. You never really watched the gameplay itself, because it's a very difficult game. Pathfinder Kingmaker is, but the reason why it's annoying is because the story is really about nothing at the end of the day. The stakes are raised time and again, but it's mostly the same stakes of, oh no, they're coming for us. They're going to kill us, and they're going to be harder than the previous ones. And some of the characters are super annoying, and the game just becomes completely impossible to beat to my brain. I cannot beat that game, so I had to cheat to see the ending, and the ending was unrewarding, and had all the tropes in there, including things like "you're not so different, you and I," or "you kill the final boss, and it turns out there is another final boss after that who was actually controlling all the things." It also has zero things to say. There's no interesting storytelling whatsoever in Pathfinder Kingmaker, I feel. I mean, maybe that's not true. The Tiefling sisters were kind of interesting for a little bit, but then they sort of start. It's that kind of writing. Do you know that kind of writing where the author has this cool idea of in the case of the sisters, like they can't talk to each other because they're inhabiting the same body, and when one goes to sleep or something, I don't remember exactly the details, but they can kind of switch between one and the other, and there's just sort of like there's this interesting character, and then they just sort of put the writing in autopilot, and there's no twists, there's no character development, there's no nothing. And the game is totally like that. I it's been a while now, but I remember thinking none of my companions have any character development throughout the whole game. And some of them are, I mean, bless the voice actors because they're doing the best and they're much better at it than I am. But some of the voice actors are clearly indie-er than the others, and including like big dialogues of there's this one barbarian leader that comes from the north, and he just talks forever. Gee, and because it's a let's play, I can't just mute the PC, read it myself, and not get annoyed. No, I had to let the game record the whole thing, and I was literally just putting my head back on my chair and just closing my eyes and listening because I couldn't engage actively because he wasn't saying anything. It was just like the same things. So Pathfinder Kingmaker. I've rambled about it half.
Yes.
Half.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it a few times. Yeah. That game is your
White whale.
What is it? Special
Albatross,
enemy in D&D.
Right metaphor is.
You get an extra 2 to hit against Pathfinder Kingmaker.
Yeah, my favorite enemy.
Oh yeah.
My class. Got advantage on stealth rolls.
It's tough. I think I've played. So I have a unique modifier on my life, which is that I can break anything I touch. So with that modifier, there comes a lot of times where playing games can go from experience of like, wow, this is boring, to wow, this game is like both boring and actively malicious towards my experience.
Yeah.
I think there's not a lot of times where I think I can genuinely say that I was as mad as I was probably at like Cyberpunk. Was probably the one game where I was like, I literally felt like the game existed to punish me. Like every single waking moment, I have nothing but recorded proof that game fell apart at every opportunity it wanted. Just moments from like cutscenes, not like literally emotional cutscenes breaking, all the way to things like I gotta get somewhere and watching your car just drive under the ground, and you're like, I don't know why like why it's like this, why it's so difficult. But on top of it being as this fucking nightmare, not like awful not running experience, it's also just a hollow game. There's nothing there. There's nothing interesting to keep you going. It's literally just, it has a skill tree that you can theoretically use. Like I've streamed it and someone pointed out to me, like, if you just get these abilities, you can just walk through the game. Like you can just hack these people, and then there's an ability that lets those hacks propagate to other people nearby. So I just made it so that I got the hack that people kill themselves, and then that propagates to other people who then all just start doing occult suicide with one another. And then I can just walk in and then just kill like the 2 or 3 people that are left behind, grab the thing and go. There's no fucking problem for me. And so now that there's no problem, I also just get the ability that I can jump really high. So now I can just jump over anything, any wall, any building, any problems. I can just jump over. And now I can just sit there, jump in the sky, make people kill themselves. And then what am I here for? What am I doing? Like I am systematically just walking over this entire city. And the whole time I have 6 people telling me like, oh man, that Arasaka Corporation's really a problem. Like, for who? For you, maybe? I have no issues in this world. I'm literally like unstoppable. I'm scarier than like a psycho in this map. Like, you have those like psychosis people that are like, I'm gonna do, and I just jump in the air and make them kill themselves. And they're like, like, what's the point? And then again, you're like, okay, well, at least there's a story, right? And it's like, yeah, you're not the main character. Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry that I'm here. I'm sorry the game doesn't work. I'm sorry that I can just kill everything instantly. Why bother? Why did I even come here? I could just watch someone play this game. That's not me. Like, why did I do this?
Yeah.
And so like that's
Every
one of
time
those things. And it
somebody
took so
says that they finally, every time someone comes in and when in response to criticism of that game saying like, oh, they fixed it now, I'm always like, oh, so now it went from being a broken bad game to just a regular bad game, because there's
Yeah.
nothing
Great.
there's nothing good about basically any of Cyberpunk. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's
it
broken
just-
on a design level.
storyline.
Yeah, there's like a
And
couple
don't-
of
and
okay
also-
characters, and it has a decent intro and conclusion, but like the entire middle 90% of the game is awful.
and
The
also
opposite
don't
of
lie.
Witcher 3.
I'll break it. I'm not
You'll
going to
push
go
it.
into Cyberpunk and it's not going to be broken for me. I will break it immediately. So like you can't fix a game for me that way. If your game is glitchy, that's fine because every game is glitchy for me. The problem I have is that there's other like the glitches are the only interesting thing about the game. Everything else is bad. So like what the fuck? I don't want glitches, but if that's the only good part of your game, then fixing it means yeah, all you're left with is a bad game. Thanks for doing that. Like it's awful. Like I don't know. I don't understand who Cyberpunk is made for. And I know that most games are not
People
made
with
for me,
very
but this
low
is like
standards.
yeah, but this is like so bad. This is bad to the point of like I don't know if this is legal. Can you legally make something like this? Like I don't know. I mean, they
People
did get
who
sued,
enjoy
I guess,
glitches where your
but-
dick sticks out when you're wearing full clothes.
Yep.
That's
You
a
mean the
fun
Donald
trick.
Duck glitch, dude? I love the Donald Duck. That's
What?
great. The,
Wait, why? Why is it called that?
Because
Why?
your
Duck
top
doesn't wear
would-
You're
pants.
the owner.
Yeah, because
We're the
usually your top would stay on, but your pants would be gone, so you look like Donald Duck.
Oh, not
Okay.
even the weirdest horror meme. Yeah. Every time I think of
yeah.
Cyberpunk, my mind immediately goes to that taxi game that you played, Keith. I didn't play Cyberpunk or the taxi game.
Cloudpunk?
But
Cloudpunk
Cloudpunk, yeah.
Mm,
Oh, that
mm.
game was so great. Oh man, that game was amazing.
with the best
I love it.
dog,
The dog
philosophical
was
dog
amazing,
AI.
but everything else was that game was just like full of chef's kiss.
I need to go back
It's-
and play
I
the
feel like
sequel expansion thing. I meant to do it relatively shortly afterwards, but then didn't because that's how it always goes.
I think I did
feel
that.
like it's yeah.
That was one of those games that just didn't really stick with me. I mean, like I enjoyed it while I was playing it. I think I gave it a 7. That was I played that the year that I played 104 games, and I reviewed every single one of them.
Oh my god.
That was coincidentally also the year that project made CD Projekt Red send me a review code of Cyberpunk. And when I went to start it, I was like, bruh, you do not want me to review this because this is not working. But Cloudpunk, I mean, I liked it, but like you've mentioned, Keith, the 2 other times that this has come up, you're like, oh yeah, the best dog AI. I literally do not remember there being a dog in that game at all whatsoever. That is like
he's
how
there the
little of an
entire
impression.
game.
How
Cam-
little of an impression that game
Camus
made
the
on
dog,
me.
you install him into your taxi, and his brain's
Yeah.
running slow because the taxi is too shitty.
The taxi's bad.
Oh,
He-
that is
he's-
correct. I do remember
He
that
literally
gimmick
talks
now.
to you for the
Yeah.
entire video game. He's always
Yeah, I
there.
just didn't register to me. Just not something
Yeah.
I was
I mean,
concerned about.
His name's even Camus. That's
oh
what the
yeah, I
guy
guess it
you
is.
like.
Huh. Camus, yeah.
Camus shit.
Huh.
I
I think
Everybody-
she does call him Camus. It's just
Yeah,
his
everybody
name
fight
is
over the
Camus.
pronunciation. But the
it's
that was the game where
yeah.
I made a comment on like, oh, like just on the fact that like, oh, she has to pay for the non-standard version because she's a woman.
Yep.
So she has to unlock. She has to pay to unlock the thing addressing her correctly as a woman because she's considered non-default. And
Yeah.
fucking someone was like, not everything's a fucking political thing, libtard.
Yeah.
And
It's like, no, this game is explicitly political.
and it was like so obviously the point, and they were so obviously wrong. But when I tweeted about it, the fucking writer of the game responded to it. It's like, yes, it's obviously political. Like, what the fuck? So it's like it's not often that fucking the writer of the game themselves will just descend from above to stomp on the weird idiot that it says I'm reading too much into something, which they say about
I love the
anything I ever
idea.
read into.
I love
Like,
the idea that games would have to
BioShock
start with
was-
that. Just like a big black screen with white text. It's like, yes, this game is political in nature. Anything you see
Yeah.
can be interpreted politically. Like,
Like, if you want
We
to talk
have
about
a
the most
statement we are
annoying-
trying to make. Get lost.
If you want to talk about like the most annoying games to let's play, alternate flavors of this thing, like one of them is games like Wasteland 3 or Divinity Original Sin 2, where it's like,
what?
let's try
Wasteland
to have
3 was a fucking treasure.
It was great, but it was spectacular. There's so many things I love about that, but it's a version of what got even worse in Divinity Original Sin 2, which is that it's just the fact that you're trying to. This game's like you can be multiple RPG people in the same time, and you're all the main character at once, and you're allowed to split up and talk to different people, and that's a fucking nightmare to let's play to figure out how to best handle that show. Like Original Sin 2 is one of the worst games I've ever tried to do a let's play of because of that, like trying to have all these like clashing personalities and trying to like do these multiple perspectives at once, and that just being a horrible thing.
Well, that's just like that's like a
me.
logistics issue,
Yeah.
right? Like
That's
just
when you
trying to figure out.
I'm talking about other versions of like games being very annoying to record. A different version of that is like was it Metroid Prime was very difficult to physically play on the hardware I had, and then like MDK took like an entire day of play testing just to be able to get the recording and the emulation to finally work correctly, all to then record a game that was less than a day long anyway. Like I spent more time I probably spent more time play testing that thing to get the series to be possible than when I actually played it. And then in the topic of what we were just talking about with like the political things, like fucking BioShock was one of the most annoying games to play because I spent the whole time wanting to ban like 10 different people because people would lose their shit whenever I read into anything. Like, oh wow, isn't it interesting how this game has like anti-police vending machines where you can just pay to like get away with crime? Isn't that interesting in this like Ayn Randian society? I'm sure, and like, hey, stop reading too much into things, blah blah blah. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a video game. I'm like, you motherfuckers! This game literally has a guy named Andrew Ryan. What the fuck do you think is the
like
point
literally?
of this game?
It's a game that those same people probably are like, the story is so deep and politically interesting and philosophically good. It's like, fuck you, dude.
Like there are games where where the audience is so fucking annoying that it makes me not want to play the game anymore. And like BioShock was a little bit of that. Paladins was a strong version of that. I banned like 20 people when we were playing Paladins because they're such little baby people. They're insecure little shitheads.
So mad.
I hate like Paladins is like better than its fan base is. But they're such little shitty little piss babies. They're such little shit garbage people. They lose their entire they're shitting and pissing and crying themselves the entire time because they're sad little. They have such a little brother syndrome. They're so fucking insecure about the fact that Overwatch exists and is more successful and polished than their game while being relatively comparable, unlike most other games you can compare. Like how Overwatch just does not realistically play like TF2 in almost any context, for example.
Or Valorant. It's
like comparing Overwatch to Valorant and TF2 is very insincere, aside from saying individual characters have the same abilities sometimes. But like Paladins is extremely comparable to Overwatch in several ways, and even the lightest comment in that territory makes people lose their entire shit. So like congrats to Paladins fans for completely driving me away when I was like relatively okay with checking out their game and trying something new, and they were so fucking insecure about any mention of Overwatch stuff all the time that they were just paragraphs and paragraphs of actively toxic shit that I just did not want to engage with their community anymore and did not want to give them content. And they did that to themselves.
So that, I mean, this all kind of ties into, we were kind of drubbing on this point. We got kind of a combination question here. So Bask asks, what games would you like to play but wouldn't because of technical issues or like preservation problems? And then Kettle asks, curious if there are any future titles or projects that we're interested in. My answer is an answer to both of these questions at the same time, which is I would love to play Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Who knows if that game will come out or be good when it comes out or work,
or be the same game.
Or even be the same game. Who knows? Who can say? Yeah. But I would like to do that. I'm currently having this issue with Jedi Survivor. I just can't fucking play the game. I loved it. I loved what I played.
Yeah,
it just came out like 3 days ago.
Everybody's been complaining. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like horrifically broken on not only PC but also the consoles that it was released on. It just doesn't work. And yeah, I mean, I have clips on my Twitch channel of like I was fighting this enemy in a field with 3 other enemies in it, and my frame rate drops to like 7 frames per second. And the frame pacing is completely off, so it looks like a slideshow. And I'm looking at this gigantic enemy that's winding up to do an attack that will kill me. I have like 1 Estus left, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to heal. And then he goes to launch himself and just falls through the terrain and disappears because the collision stopped working because the frame rate was so low. It's like the game does not function right now, and
it's like a me simulator.
Yeah,
Congrats.
and it's like it's not my computer either. I have a 7900X and a RTX 4090. Like my computer should be able to run this.
I think that's probably why it's not running very well. It's because I guarantee I promise you that studio does not have those machines in the testing room.
This is EA. It's Respawn. Like this is huge.
Yeah, they don't
have that.
They don't have that stuff at all. No way in hell. I bet you they're running off of like some 2080 fucking computer in the back room.
Oh,
like
no way.
I bet you they have some shitty computer that's running this thing. There's no way, dude.
Those are back.
The issue doesn't have to do with my hardware. It's a universal issue because the settings menu is like just broken. Like it literally doesn't run on anything. If you set the graphics to like 1024 by 768 interlaced and you try to lock it to 30 frames per second, it still doesn't improve your performance. The game itself does not work correctly. If you so the easiest way to see this is there's an option in the menus to change your texture resolution from like epic to lowest. But if you use something like Riva Tuner to look at like to have an on-screen display to show you how much video RAM is being used, if you turn it from epic down to the lowest, it still pages 21 gigs of VRAM because it's still
Elden
loading.
Ring had this problem.
Yeah. It is a universal engine problem with the way that they've implemented Unreal. I think it's using Unreal, or whatever engine they're using. It does not work.
The 4090 only has 16, right?
No, I have 24 gigs of VRAM.
No, it's 24.
Yeah. But the Elden Ring had this exact problem where they were trying to load the shadows for the entire game every time you loaded. And so you would have this like 5 minutes in the beginning of the game where sometimes it would just not run very well because it's trying to load the shadows for everything.
And texture paging and stuff.
And so like the best thing to do is to go into the game before you start recording it, run around the area, and then go back to where you want to start recording from, because then you'll have loaded everything incorrectly. It was a nightmare. But
Survivor's even worse than that. Survivor's even worse than that, though. It just doesn't. It like literally doesn't work. It has like a setting. It's incredible. You can turn on the like AMD FSR like super resolution stuff, which is supposed to obviously improve performance while decreasing internal resolution with a relatively low hit to visual quality. Same as DLSS on most games like that. Normally, that should net you a pretty solid amount of frame rate difference. My game runs worse with it on than with it off because my hardware should be able to just render the game at native resolution. And all turning it on does is add extra load to the CPU, which is already pinged for some reason. Like it just doesn't work. And I talked to Keith about this. I said, Keith, we have to record all of Arches on Friday because I'm going to spend 20 hours streaming Jedi Survivor tomorrow. And I streamed 3.5 hours of Survivor because I got to a point, and people watch it on stream, where my game became unplayable. NPCs I was supposed to be able to talk to disappeared from the game because they fell through the fucking terrain. This is in a year of bad PC ports, of like truly abysmal PC ports. The Last of Us Part 1 released broken 3 weeks ago. Like it is
Wasn't
bad.
it just a VRAM issue that
partially there's more stuff.
There's more? Okay.
There was more issues with it than that, but like settings menus not working, crap like that. That was bad. Survivor is a worse PC port than that. Now, the tragedy of that is that Jedi Survivor is a incredible game when it works. it is so good. It is an improvement in every regard from Fallen Order, which is a game I already like a lot. It is so interesting and well designed and just totally gets what it needed to do to improve on Fallen Order. Everything you possibly could have wanted Fallen Order to do better, this game does better. It just doesn't fucking run. It just doesn't run. And unlike Cyberpunk, you can see the gem of a good game covered in the mud of garbage porting around it. And it's just so tragic. All I want to do is play this game, and I can't play this game for my stream.
But I mean, on the plus side, you know that it's going to be fixed. You know that these are like but the technical issues are way easier to fix. Yeah.
In the meantime, you're immediately just scratching. You're like, oh, I need another visual novel to play, Keith, because Survivor's not working. I need to do another visual novel.
I've been messaging Keith like, can we just do literally anything so that I feel productive? Like, can we record a visual novel? Like, let's do 428. Let's do Shibuya Scramble, please. Just like let me do something with my time.
Yeah. Say hello to our last podcast for the next 6 months, because the four of us are going to play Shibuya Scramble now.
Woo!
Oh my god! Actually, that'd probably be faster.
Yeah, could be fun.
We had one more person. We'd have one for every perspective, but then I'd have to worry about anyone being unavailable ever.
That's true.
Once you have 5 people, you all take turns not being available each week until we don't do something for a whole month. Like, that's usually how it goes. That's the risk.
Yeah, I think for 5 people, we'd need to have a flexible schedule, so the unavailability
time slot.
It's that is tough. I don't think I have any games that I want to record for preservation's sake. I think I mostly just play games that are interesting to me, and there haven't been any games where I was like, man, I really regret I can't play this game.
I'm sad I didn't play Secret World before it got like reacquired and revamped as a free-to-play game that everyone seems to hate now. There's all those interesting video essays or there's extra credits videos or whatever fucking type of coverage existed
about its like quest design and stuff.
Yeah, about it having interesting quest design.
About a game that doesn't exist.
And now none of the people that play it like it. So
yeah. I would like to maybe do like, this is one of those things. I mean, Keith has brought this up before, but like recording MMOs could be really cool. Like, it's really cool in theory because there's like not a lot of playthroughs of these things, and people seem to actually enjoy them, like especially people who can't play MMOs, just to see what they're about. I'd love to do like a Final Fantasy 11 let's play, but that would literally be a 1,000-hour long process. Or like Keith mentioned to me quite a few times, like it would be really fun to do like Star Wars The Old Republic and have all of us do different classes, because the game is different depending on what class you play, and then edit it into one sort of interesting let's play story with all of our different perspectives. But then again, that's like 1,000.
It'd be like a Game of Thrones scale let's play where it cuts between all these different perspectives at different times for the different class storylines happening in parallel.
Yeah. But that would also just be a gigantic editing process, and there's definitely stuff out there that just like, it would be cool to let's play, but it's not feasible. And then again, for me, another thing is like, I only started publicly let's playing this year, basically last year, and that means that I've spent 26 years of my life playing video games already. So like, there are a lot of really cool games that I would have liked to play for the channel to archive and just like have my playthroughs of, but like, I fucking played everything. I have played so many games in my life that so many of them are just not new to me, and they don't make for the same kind of interesting content. And like, one of the reasons why I'm doing The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 the way I am is because it's a playthrough style that no one else has done, that I can kind of show off and talk about and provide perspective on that like other people don't. Because otherwise I would just be replaying a game I've already played, which to me, even just as like, not even as a content creator, just like as someone who plays a lot of video games, like, I've already done this. It's a little bit boring. It's like an uninteresting, unengaging thing to do unless I'm like making a challenge run out of something. So
I was like really lucky in that I didn't play like any of the popular stuff growing up for the most part.
Yeah.
So I played rare games, but like when everyone else was playing all those fucking mainstream Nintendo games on the 64 era and stuff, I was playing like Bomberman 64. Mischief
Hudson
makers.
Soft stuff,
Just
Konami
weird,
stuff.
just weird shit. Just whatever I just like saw boxes and picked them up, and that was the process.
You know what? I do have one. I would love to play Hunter the Reckoning. Both Hunter the Reckoning and Hunter the Reckoning Redeemer, I have them on the original Xbox. I have both of them. But
Andrew, when I move, we're gonna play some Hunter the Reckoning. Hell
I'm
yeah!
super down. I would love to. I want to beat it again. It's like a better version of Gauntlet Legends. There's just something
it's
so
like
fun.
it's a super fun 2 to 4 player, depending on what system you're playing it on. Gauntlet style game. Andrew, sign me the fuck up. It
has to be local. It's not a game you can play remotely, but also it doesn't run on almost anything except original Xbox. You can play the original Hunter the Reckoning on a new Xbox, but not Redeemer for some reason. So the only way to play Redeemer is on the fucking OG Xbox One. Like, it's such a pain in the ass. And but it's so fun. It's such a fun game. Like, I love it to death. It's so dumb.
I have good news for you, my friend.
Oh yeah.
The GameCube version of these games has perfect compatibility on Dolphin and supports NetPlay.
Okay, I didn't think about playing it on the GameCube. I guess because I bought them physically for the Xbox, I was like, well, I'll play it. And we could do it
widescreen. We could play it in widescreen.
Oh,
that could be cool.
I think we should probably consider.
We'll investigate this. We'll investigate this offline. I'll check into seeing if we can do this. Because
if we can do NetPlay, we can get 4 people. Like,
easy.
What a treat that would be.
I've never heard of this game. I don't think
it's another World of Darkness game. It's the same world as Vampire the Masquerade, but it's like a Gauntlet style based on Hunter, which is a different tabletop in the same universe.
Yeah,
I don't think I've watched any.
Good. You know what? You should go in blind. It's such an experience going into this game blind. There's like a lot of I will readily admit that the game isn't like the best. There are definitely a lot of parts of it that are like, oh, this isn't great. But the general like moment to moment gameplay is a lot of fun. You feel like you're constantly doing something. There's not a lot of time where you're unless you're trying to be like really, really completionist, like you're running around the map trying to get be perfectly prepared for every fight, then it may get a little daunting. But for the most part, like just from minute to minute gameplay, there's always something fun going on, and there's always these moments of like, I don't know, just the like, what should I be doing? What should I be doing? What's happening? Like, this is a lot of enemies, but also I feel like I'm not well equipped to deal with this, because you need to scrounge for ammo, for weapons, wait for like abilities to charge. It's just, there's a lot of fun in it. Boss fights are just really interesting. It's just, the story is just comically dumb. It's
kind of, it reminds me of like X-Men Legends in a lot of ways, if you ever played those games, where you're just like, it's kind of like a dungeon crawler, but you have like 4 people, 1 to 2 people, depending on the console again. I think there was a PS2 one called like Hunter the Reckoning Wayward as well. There are a few of them, but they're just kind of, I mean, I say this with love in my heart for these games. They're kind of like, they're like shitty off-brand dungeon crawlers, but because of that, it enables them to be weird ass, like goofy multiplayer games. They're pretty fun.
Yeah,
they're a good one.
They're definitely more. They're not like Diablo. Dungeon crawl, like Diablo is really like poisoned the well of the word dungeon crawler. It's very much not like that. You are not looking for.
You're not upgrading characters or getting armor.
No. You do, so there are upgrades, but they are like super basic. It's basically like health, magic, power, like you're basically upgrading one solitary thing, and it's not, you don't have to think much about it. You just say like, well, I kind of need more life, or I kind of need more magic.
Maybe Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance is like a good comparison point if you've played that.
Yeah, that was the
game that confused
accurate.
Me.
Well,
let's check out this Xbox game that's like, I'm like, this isn't what Baldur's Gate's supposed to be like, but it's also kind of not quite what Diablo is. But I was like, must get chain lightning as fast as possible, and also I was wearing all the wrong gear because I didn't understand what the stats meant, because they all meant the opposite of what they intuitively should mean, because it's old D&D. The Baldur's Gate was my first, Dark Alliance was my first introduction to the fucked up old version of AC, where the numbers are dumb. I couldn't understand what gear was. I just couldn't understand what gear was good. It's not. I can learn a system. It's that these games don't teach you it.
They don't.
It's like you play the omnipresent D&D system, right? I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's very much the attitude.
Not only does not everyone play D&D, because it's not fucking Star Wars. Not everyone fucking is experiencing the same rule set. But by the time I played those games, even then 3.5 was out or whatever. So like, my introduction to D&D also didn't involve this version of AC, so I still didn't know what was happening. And these games just don't really explain themselves for shit. And it's like, of all things, like, it's one thing to be like, oh, you should read the manual for the 500-hour slow-paced CRPG. It came with a book. But if you're gonna make a fucking Diablo clone, then it's like, I shouldn't have to read a book about how to play this game. It has two buttons. You barely think. Like, just tell me what the gear, how it works. Just don't make it weird and stupid.
Mm-hmm.
What do numbers mean, game?
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear that there is potential to.
I'll look into this. I'll see what the process of getting it set up is, and if it's feasible to do. But if it is, then we can play it on NetPlay. If it isn't, then when I move up north, we'll steal time to record it as like a co-op experience. Perfect. Maybe we'll just have like a weekend where we all chill at my apartment or something, and we just record it in one long marathon session, because it's not very long. It's like maybe 6 hours total.
Thankfully, getting old video games to work is Toaster's kink.
It is my kink. Yeah, I'm really into retro troubleshooting.
I'm glad somebody is, I guess.
yeah. It's just, that's for me. I'll get it done.
I guess I can also play the game afterwards. I guess. It's not really the one I got signed up for. I mostly was here for the grit.
Yeah, I'm here to figure out what connectors to plug into what.
For me, the game that I wish I could play. There's a lot of games that I started doing a let's play or started trying to record, and then they wouldn't record. There's like half a dozen of them, so that's a lot. But there's one that sort of sticks in my mind. It's Divine Divinity.
Oh, I also had trouble trying to record that. I was gonna do a playthrough of it, and it just doesn't work.
No, recording, you absolutely need the capture card. But I could get it to play it once, and then I couldn't do it after that. It just doesn't work.
Well, my issue is I could get the game to launch, but if I tried to get anything to record my screen, it required me to like click out, and the second I clicked out, it would break. It wouldn't work. Yeah, I couldn't do it.
I the first time I tried to run it, it bugged out, but I could record it locally, but then it would only show like the background and not the character sprites or anything, so it wasn't recording properly. And after that, it was just would not even boot. So it's one of those games that if I have a Windows 98 machine or maybe Windows XP just sitting around, I'm sure
there's a thing now. There's recently been a. It's going to sound weird. It's not virtualization. It isn't like a DOS box. It's not like a virtual machine, but there is an emulator that just got released that has almost perfect compatibility for running Windows 95 through Windows 2000. Maybe
that's beautiful.
If you use that, you might be able to record that emulator's window. Weirdly enough, Linus just did a video about this, as we were talking about earlier. Linus Tech Tips put out a video for it. I'll link it to you, Colonel, because it might be an avenue to explore for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I can finally get to play Soul Reaver, the first one, which I own, but it requires 98, so I can't play it.
Yeah, for Soul Reaver. Oh, you're talking about are you talking about Legacy of Kain or Soul
Legacy
Reaver
of Kain? No, the one Soul Reaver one, the first Soul Reaver.
Oh, There's a PC. There's a like reverse engineering port being made for that. I believe I just got it up and running, so I can show you how to get that set up as well.
Oh,
if
that's
you want.
Jesus.
Yeah, Soul River. I played my first game in that series was Soul River 2, and it starts right after the sort of cliffhanger ending of the Soul River 1. So it was just like this in media res sort of beginning, and I didn't understand anything. I didn't know any of the characters, but I just got engulfed in the storyline or the little bits that I could understand. It's like this world is amazing. And then I played the original one, Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen. And it was pretty fun. A very difficult game to my
Blood Omen was another one I had trouble getting running on my PC, and I opted to just emulate the PS1 version because you take a performance hit, but it's whatever.
Yeah, for me it worked. I played it. I finished it twice now. But then I could only watch the Let's Play of Soul River 1. Couldn't play it myself. And then I played Soul River 2 and Defiance on a
I love Soul Reaver. Those are games I want to do Let's Plays of too, because I haven't played them in like probably 20 years, maybe 15 years. Yeah, 15 years is probably the last time I went through Legacy of Kain.
There's some really good Let's Plays out there.
Yeah.
I've watched a couple of brothers in particular. I don't remember their name, but they know their stuff.
The thing I was thinking of it's not a source port. It's a HD, like perfect upscale player patch that fixes a lot of issues with the Dreamcast version, which is the best version of that game. So you just have to you have to emulate it on Dreamcast.
It's an emulator, right?
Yeah, that's using emulation. But
loop to hear the Dreamcast.
Yeah, it's interesting. Version? Yeah, the Dreamcast version is the best version because it's the only one that has like not
that was
always.
Enough.
It is for a lot of games back then. There are a lot of good ones, but they've been superseded by PC ports a lot of the time. But in this particular case, it is the best version to play for Soul Reaver because it has uncompressed textures, doesn't have perspective warping like the PS1 version did, and it has uncompressed audio and non-sequenced audio or properly sequenced audio, unlike the PC version. So you want to emulate the Dreamcast version if you want to play Soul Reaver.
I also want to play Cannon Spike.
Cannon Spike. Isn't that like isn't that like a Street Fighter spinoff? Yeah, the Candy Street Fighter spinoff.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I have that for the Dreamcast. I realize I do want to play that actually. That would be really fun to play.
Man, I can't wait to move closer, Andrew, because we're gonna play so many fucking weird old games.
Hell yeah.
The Street Fighter game I had growing up was the one where you played 4-player at once in 3D.
Isn't that Cannon Spike?
Yeah, is that Cannon Spike, right?
It was 4-player, so it was a side-scrolling beat 'em up. It was a side-scrolling.
Yeah, that's Cannon Spike.
Like it was the confines of a Street Fighter like arena. Like you go left and right and that's it. But it was 4 players at once on one plane, and it was just noise. It was nonsensical.
Oh, maybe you're thinking about like one of the Final Fight games or something, because those take place in the Street Fighter universe.
I think you're thinking of that because Cannon Spike is like
it's
more
sort of like it's more
like
it
was not a beat 'em up.
like,
it was a fighting game.
Okay.
It was a fighting game.
It was a legit fighting game.
Yeah, it was a 2D fighting game, but with 3D graphics and 4 players on the screen at once.
I'm looking at the fucking
it was a fucking nightmare. Good luck naming that one game.
Fuck, dude, we gotta play Cannon Spike. That would be a riot. I would love to do that.
Do
you have the hardware for it? Do you have a Dreamcast?
Yeah, I have a Dreamcast. You know what? I do need to replace its CD drive. I can probably get it on eBay.
Are we gonna have like a big uptick of like local recording studio shouting match video game sessions?
Y'all, if I rent a house, I will turn my office like into a communal space that we can use to record. Like I will dedicate.
We're just gonna go
space
full circle to the original days of sad games.
Hell,
and you know what? Those were the best times.
Yeah,
yeah. No, we're gonna revive it. It'll be good. We'll have an actual channel network.
If I just get a replacement CD drive, then I should definitely be able to play Dreamcast games with no issue. I do have the game. Yeah.
It's very strange seeing how games change over time, like or just different versions of the games. Like I grew up playing
Yeah, there
Jedi
it is,
Power
Canon
Battles and having it like burned into my brain. So seeing the Dreamcast version a decade later and having it, none of it look the same at all. Like it's the same levels, but none of the graphics match even remotely, is a surreal experience. Like they straight up
Yeah.
made like they just made the game from the ground up to like to look like the same overall thing you play technically, but like none of the graphics were built with the same assumptions or even aesthetic.
Yeah.
Incredibly
completely.
strange. Like Jedi Power Battles comparisons between PS1 and Dreamcast are just very strange, and if you grew up with one of them, you'll be very shocked.
They're basically
by the other
made
one.
by completely different teams at that point.
Yeah.
You know, it's like how the Wii ports of like Xbox 360 games were often, you know, they're titled the same and they're advertised like they're the same game, but they're completely different campaigns.
Yeah, like that time that
we can play,
Sonic Unleashed was secretly supposedly better on Wii because it had better its version of Werehog levels were less horrible.
Let's see. We could play Star Wars Demolition for the Dreamcast.
I grew
which
up with
is
that
arguably
one,
the best.
but on
that's the best
PS1
version, by the way,
or 2.
The Dreamcast version is the best one.
I had the PlayStation 1, so I had a lot of Z fighting.
Think of like what other. The only
PlayStation
I don't really
did
have
like
a lot of
its Z
Dreamcast
fighting.
games that I can think of that I like would want to play that I didn't get a chance, that I could not get a chance to, like that haven't been ported somewhere else.
Doesn't everyone remember Dreamcast classics like Zombie Revenge and Psychic Force?
I still have our copy
Toaster
of Zombie
remembers.
Revenge that we bought with the first
Toaster
fucking
remembers.
payment that we ever had from YouTube.
Yeah, our the first thing we spent our income on YouTube was on a Dreamcast copy of Zombie Revenge, so we could play it. Only to find out that then we had additional problems, which was that Andrew's Dreamcast doesn't work, so we never got to play it.
Yeah, I both my original PlayStation and my Dreamcast both have busted CD drives.
Don't get rid of any of that shit. I'll repair all of that for you. Do not.
Oh yeah,
worry about it. I can do that.
I knew I could repair them. It was just a matter of like, oh, I have to take the time. Like I have to take the time to sit down, buy these parts, set it up, fix it, and it's like, whatever, man. Like my thought was like, if I just wait long enough, I'm sure emulators will take care of this problem for me forever. But yeah, I would like to have them working for sure, because I know that it's like the parts are cheap, and also there's a lot of games that I can't play without that hardware, which is frustrating. I think I would also like to do, what is it? I do want to do a Let's Play of Pitfall for the Sega Genesis or for the Super Nintendo. I can't remember which one it is. I don't remember. It's like, what is it? Pitfall. What it's like
The
Pitfall...
Mayan Adventure.
Yeah, the Mayan Adventure. Pitfall, the Mayan Adventure. That's what it is. Yeah. I remember playing that as a kid and struggling, but also enjoying it. Like this chaotic feeling of like, okay, I can do this.
That was the era of those like cinematic platformers and like the like old school Prince of Persia games and stuff like that. Black Hawk, things like that.
Once somebody's laid that many traps for you, you'd really be better off minding your own business.
I mean, honestly, this guy definitely made a mistake. There's like a lot of shit you run into through the whole game.
Toaster, we've been sent a cursed question.
We've been sent a cursed question. Oh, you're right. Bask says FMK, Cassius, Alexios, Leo.
Yeah, fuck, Mary, kill, Cassius, Alexios, Leo.
My answer is probably immediate. It would probably be fuck Alexios, marry Cassius because he's rich, and that's fine, I guess, and kill Leo because Leo's not even good in bed. Canonically, he's not even good in bed. There's no point. He's not good in bed, and he's poor. No, thank you.
Yeah,
he's poor and bad in bed.
What's his redeeming qualities? Tell me. I don't want to pay his vet bills.
Fuck Leo, marry Cassius, kill Alexios. It's just like process of elimination. Like you can't anything. The Alexios needs to go away. There's no good options to
Damn, dude.
Lexios. He's bad.
Damn, dude.
Cassius learned his lesson, kind of, so he might be the most tolerable person to be with long term. But these are not good options. These are horrible. These are specifically the bad options of all the games that they're from. Like,
all I'm saying is, like, I would marry Cassius because there are plenty of couples that don't get along and have these icy business power relationships, and he's an emperor. He's an emperor.
I'm
like
de-
he's
yeah,
gonna
I'm
have
definitely there with you.
concubines. Not my responsibility, right? He can get his rocks off somewhere else, and I can go sleep with Alexios. He's pliable, I guess. Like, whatever.
he's pliable.
But like
Jesus.
Leo, it was not. Leo it makes my fight or flight happen.
I'm with Toaster on his choices. Fuck Alexius, marry Cassius, and kill Leo.
Yeah.
Jesus.
My worry with Leo is that if you do fuck him, then he's going to try to fuck, marry, kill you. All the above.
What?
All three at once. All three at once, just for you.
That is the alarming outcome, is that he might just work down the list.
Yeah.
Of all the characters in these settings to choose, oh no.
I did consider that. I mean, yeah, you're just pushing me more towards the kill Leo situation, because the fuck Alexius and fuck Leo is almost even.
I have my reputation as a Leo hater.
Maybe the
and
most
I'm the only one
controversial
saying not
statement
to
I
kill
can say.
him.
The most controversial statement I can say is that Alexios might actually be a good one-night stand. You know, like, he's a problem. He's gonna talk shit about you. He's gonna stab you in the back. But
There's
like,
no shit to talk about me. He
just
that.
all I'm saying. I'm not trying to be gross here, but like, you don't gotta get to know a pump and dump. That's all I'm saying. You
Oh
know?
my god.
Well, we know already. So we have the advantage or disadvantage of having seen all their.
I don't think any of these
Knowing enough to
characters
keep
is
yourself
canonically
safe.
good at sex.
What?
Yeah.
What? Canonically? Like, they're
I don't think-
canonically not good?
I don't think
No.
any of these people are necessarily known for being
No,
actually good in bed.
none of them-
So
none
it's
of them are known
it's
for
a
being-
rough
well-
list.
Well, Alexios is like
but-
literally like basically like a spy, right? Like, I can bend my mind around him being the like femme
Yeah.
fatale, like erotic seduction, but you know, it's whatever.
I'm
Yeah,
worried.
Also because he
I
seduced
can't handle the
Cassius.
insincerity. It's not good.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I
fair.
got the insincerity.
Yeah, I don't want to
That's
be in
true.
I don't want to be in my own head about it. Like, I don't like that. I don't like wondering of, like, at least Cassius is sincere. Leo's
That
too
is true. He
sincere.
does.
Leo's scary.
Yeah. I think
I can
let's
understand that,
see.
I guess. It's just
I mean, I made my tier list of who would be the best in bed in the Echo
I
universe.
feel like
and really,
Alexios. I feel like sleeping with Alexios is like some fucking Andrew Tate shit, where you're like, oh, I hate women, but I want to fuck all of them. It's like, why, what? This is like not a. You guys don't like each other. What's the point of any of this?
damn.
Yeah, I can see that.
There's just no upside to doing anything with Alexios. I don't like that at all.
Harsh criticisms of this poor guy.
No,
I think I made my tier list of who would be the best in bed in the Echo universe, and I think, you know, I'm not straight, but I think Jenna is probably canonically the best, followed by probably Flynn. But if I
I
tried
would
to do
rather
this with
sleep with
Adastra,
every other route character in Echo before Leo, probably.
Yeah,
and definitely
exactly.
before Cassius and
Yeah.
Alexios.
yeah, definitely. And Hexo says Carl seems open-minded to fun stuff. Oh, I'm sure, but he's also just never leaves his room and you know, doesn't have a lot of experience and, you know, has all these self-esteem issues. So it might be like kind of an awkward situation. So he's ranked a little bit lower on the list than, like, you know, Olympic level sex havers like Jenna.
Damn.
This has been Toaster's hot takes about
Enjoy-
who we would sleep with in the Echo cast.
Enjoy this as a
Put your
standalone
comments
video.
below.
Give me your hot. Give
Just
me your
gonna
hot
clip
take,
this into its own
literally.
video.
I'm sure I'm sure.
I've been thinking about experimenting and cutting the podcast into a series of videos, at least for my channel, just to see if they fit like the rant format and make people watch them a lot, as opposed to
try
other
to.
stuff.
You could always try to do shorts and stuff, like find some funny clips in here and just short them.
And this time we had a series of topics, so I can like just cut at each question.
That's true.
Fine. We have some funny retorts every once in a while, but I think a lot of our
I don't have the patience to sit through these videos again to then find like a short's worth of like highlight, unless there's something one specific thing is burned into my brain.
The problem is that the amusement we draw from our interactions also comes from the fact that we know each other, and the viewers also are in it for that. There's like there's a lot of our humor that just relies on the already existing background. Do you know what I mean? And shorts don't rely on that at all. They need to stand on their own. You can't just make a short and be like, oh, he said a reference to a thing, or, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know how any of that works. I just completely ignore that system.
You know, even simple things like saying, you know, I would love to play this game. Oh, I grew up playing this game. It's so nice. And like in a podcast, it's cool. But in the shorts, like, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that's fair.
I got an early intro to that where back on Sit and Discuss, we were trying to figure out what to do with that channel over the years. And at one point we would just do like these daily vlog things. And Andrew would just kind of like rant about stuff whatever every day. But like, I struggled to come up with anything to actually make a video about back then. And half the time, if I talked about anyone else or something like that, I learned real fast about how quickly these videos are really weird out of context and like can be a very strange experience, especially if like you like mention another creator and then they see it or something and they see it as like a personal attack. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even like figure out the tone of this thing, because that's definitely not what I was going for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's also just one of the things that we don't think about though is that like channels like, you know, Mr. Beast or whatever, like they have like little shorts that are goofy and seem to be really centered around their dynamics with each other, but like he gets new followers every day that have never heard of him, you know. So you don't need to worry too much about having too much context, because people will catch one video, be curious about it, and then watch 47 other shorts in a row and figure out your personalities and your relationships from that. So,
oh my God.
But
I mean, it's easy when the videos are 15 seconds long or whatever.
Yeah. But then at the same time, there's the people that that are like mad you don't explain who everybody is every episode. Or like every time I bring up Stephanie, there's always like, who's Stephanie? And I'm like, oh.
Do you not put links?
This is weird.
I mean, yeah, for Stephanie.
I do, but
no one reads the doobly-doo kernel.
Yeah, doobly-doo don't exist.
Yeah, that's true. They don't, yeah.
I mean, just like at these streams where someone will donate to me, they'd be like, why isn't he acknowledging me? And I'm like, the whole description is about that. The whole description's about that.
Thank you for the donation.
And then this is what happens. Who is this person in the video? They're the person that I said is in the video. Okay. Shit.
Well, that clears everything up. I just don't. I don't have the brain for skits. I guess they technically would be. Like, I don't have the brain for those kind of like Vine style, TikTok style content. I just am not.
Yeah.
I am not a comedian. I am an idiot. And
you want to know who weirdly does
draws comedy?
Fucking Bird. Bird is a shorts machine. Everything that guy
I can see that. Yeah. I can definitely see that.
God, he's just got the most honed timing when it comes to things like that. That dude is gonna boost engagement for all our channels forever.
He's on it though. Like, you can tell before we even like when we start recording, like he's been hyping himself up. He's there. He's gonna go do it.
He's been pre-gaming.
Yeah. And that's why after like 2 hours, it was like, okay, I'm done. That's it. I'm tired. Because of course you are. You've been on for 2 hours. It's not like us running on autopilot, or at least me.
What I hate about shorts is that, like, I'm technically on some level funny for a living or something, but nothing is ever funny for me long enough for it to be thought about and then scripted and then filmed. Like, it never stays funny, and I always hate the idea by the time you get through any steps of that process.
Yeah.
It has to just come out.
I always thought it was like a confidence issue, but like the more I like think about the things that I would think are funny and then writing them down and then thinking about talking about them or saying them or acting them out or whatever. And then the process of editing it and re-seeing it and rethinking about it is like this multi-long process of embarrassment. And I just don't particularly walk away from the experience going like, yeah, I should do more of these. It's definitely like okay, I did a thing and I don't think I'll ever do that again. And it's like I have that problem with cooking videos where I did enjoy making them, but every time I had to go back and edit them, there's like this huge hesitation in even finishing it because I genuinely don't really think the content's good. And people seem to enjoy it, but I don't know if they're just wrong.
Yeah. Well,
like, like it's not that I don't think that they're being honest that they enjoy it, but I don't think it actually has that kind of appeal. I think it is just, people just like, I like watching you make content, but the idea of making content isn't just for that. The idea is also to make content that goes places. You do kind of on some level want to have other people see your content besides the people that, are subscribed.
Yeah. Well, this gets to what we were talking about earlier, right? With like how we decide what to play and like games we want to do. Like playing games just for YouTube like seems like it's all fun and games, but like there are strategic aspects to playing things when you play them and making the content that you're making when you make it. It isn't as simple as just being like, hey, I'm gonna jump in here and like, I mean, sometimes it is. It's very easy to just like binge record a game you're interested in and then just throw it, like puke it onto YouTube to live forever. But like, if you're really trying to maximize, like you actually have to think about these things. You really do have to pay attention to like what you're doing, what you're spending your time doing. And that goes even more with things like shorts where you have to be punchy and you have to be funny and you have to expect when the edits are going to happen. And it's, as much as we all stream, I mean, Keith has it in his stream bio where it's like, I'm not here to be just a good streamer. I just happen to be streaming. Like we are here for multiple purposes. And I had to have this conversation in my chat.
Different behavior incentive.
Yeah. And like I had to have a conversation in my chat on Twitch the other day where I was like, hey, if I'm not responding to what the people in my chat are asking me, it's not because I'm ignoring you. I mean, sometimes it's because I don't notice because chat's moving too fast, but other times it's because like, yeah, I'd like to answer this question, but it's like a random question that maybe the answer isn't something I want to share on. Like it's going to live in a YouTube video for the next 10 years. Like maybe that just isn't good content. Like I have to think about, okay, who's going to be listening to this on headphones on the bus in, 3 years from now, looking for like a Jedi Fallen Order playthrough. Like, is what I'm talking about going to be engaging to them too? Someone in my chat recently asked me, like, we were just talking about like, I couldn't tell where someone was from in a Sherlock game because their name was like it was distinctly foreign, but in a way I wasn't sure what the origin was. Like he could have been like Turkish or like other various areas like Hungarian or something around there. Like I just couldn't tell. And he was like, oh yeah, like this person in my chat like went into their background. They were like, I'm like half Norwegian, half Swedish. Like, what's your like ethnic background, Toaster? And I was like, this is not like a bad question to ask. And like, it's not going to get me in trouble. But like, that's also one, aggressively uninteresting for me to respond to. And two, like, I don't need people looking through my videos in 10 years being like, oh yeah, Toaster said he was X, Y, and Z. Like, it's just not information I need to share in a video when it's irrelevant. So it's just hard. It's hard to position this like content that needs to live on multiple platforms while you're also trying to make it funny and make it work for all of the different platforms that have different approaches to them.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I always go into a stream with the knowledge that I'm going to edit, because I do not like watching VODs unless it's mindless gameplay. Like, It's either the hey, thank you for the bits, thank you for the sub or whatever, that is unrelated to the game, or just even the play style and play, like the tempo of playing can be
The tempo is really
drastically
different.
slower.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just, whenever somebody asks me an interesting question or a question at all, actually, I'll just like actually stop playing the game and answer, and like that way I can edit things properly and not seem weird.
I tend to use the breaks in between recordings as that time to kind of like respond to chat and answer. And I usually like in my Twitch bio or whatever, there's like a whole huge like paragraph that's basically like, look, if I don't respond to you, I'm recording everything that I'm playing. If I don't respond to you, it's just because I'm trying to make content. I'm trying to make something right now. And the moment I stop recording, I will be 100% invested in talking to you. But like, it's just, you do have to set those boundaries because there's different, like Toaster said, there's a lot of different reasons you would stream. Some people stream just to have other people to hang out with while they're streaming. Some people stream because they're making content and don't like doing it alone, isolated in a room.
Yeah.
And so, like, and so you just have to work around that. But I think
sometimes they're just streaming to trick themselves into staying on task.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what me and Keith do a lot. Like, I mean, and for me too, like a lot of games, there are just a lot of games that I don't know if they're going to be good stream games until I'm streaming them, right? Like, there are games that I would only ever pre-record because I know I can edit shit out of them. But then there are games that I think are better for streaming because at least when my mind is blank while I'm playing them in a sort of daze and there isn't much to talk about, I can at least read chat and respond to chat so that it can like fill time, right? And like, so it might be interesting, for example, I guess like to use a really good example, fucking Let's Playing Fatal Frame 4 would have been miserable because I had nothing to say in that game 95% of the time. Most of it was boring. If I pre-recorded that playthrough, it would have been 8.5 hours of silence, periodically interrupted by me going like, why doesn't the camera work? Why won't it let me interact with the thing on the ground? This is so frustrating. Move faster. Like, that's all it would be, with like literally hours of nothing in between it because the game was
the game where running nothing. Whenever you ran, it made you look like you're underwater.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, it's just weird. Like, it's just an odd. Some games lend themselves to certain platforms better, and like when you're trying to do what a lot of us do, which is like create content that will live forever somewhere else, it means that you are deprioritizing the in the moment of the streaming, and sometimes that's just what you gotta do. Like, that's all there is to it. But it's just hard. It's hard to make content that works everywhere while also making it work in the moment for the thing that you're streaming or recording or whatever.
And we haven't even got into the technical issues that can arise from any one of those things. It's just
there are so many things I wish I could do. Like, I know, Andrew, you record in Streamlabs because you can do things like have an overlay recording and then a raw recording at the same time, right?
I do OBS. I do OBS.
Oh, you do OBS.
I do OBS, but I have like one. I just actually finished this yesterday. I only have one scene for all of my streaming and recording. And I just have different sources in that one scene, and I can on my stream deck I just choose which ones I want available.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so I turned all of my entire streaming are just modules on one screen, and so I can say, hey, I want to play a game like Final Fantasy where it doesn't matter if you can see all of the different elements or whatever, because who gives a shit about Final Fantasy? Whereas if I'm playing something like Overwatch, well, obviously Overwatch, the more you can see of the game, the better it is. So things like that. And so I can just press buttons and quickly change between them. But
my
yeah,
thing is
but
like I
yeah.
usually need to have multiple. Like it would be great for me if I could have two different recordings recording at the same time, which is like I want one with my overlay going to my stream, but I want the raw game
Yeah.
footage for something else. And like I can't do that. I know you can. I think XSplit can do it and Streamlabs can do it, but I can't in OBS because I need a plugin that only works on OBS in order to do my VTubing. So it's like I'm just stuck. I'm just stuck here. This is all I can do. And like, I mean, I have multiple scenes on OBS because I have all of my different overlays and stuff and scripts and stuff set up for those different scenes. But like, sometimes you're just like you're stuck because of the technical side of it. Like I would love to be able to do a bunch of crazy shit with my stream, but I can't really because I'm also trying to record YouTube videos, and the tools I would need to do the things that could be cool would prevent me from doing YouTube recording backups and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's the another frustrating angle for stuff like even just regular Let's Playing too comes with its own, system of headaches and issues, and just content creation is tough. It's very difficult and frustrating and rewarding all at the same time. But I think with streaming too, there's a lot of not pressure, but there's a lot of multitasking you need to be doing at all times. You're paying attention to chat. You're ensuring that the content you're creating is coming out correctly on the stream. You want to make sure the audio's balanced, the video looks right. Like there's people, you're like interacting with people. If you're recording, you want to make sure
bit rate, like making sure OBS isn't breaking.
There's so much that goes involved in something. What you would see is something as simple as you're just playing a video game and talking over it. Yeah. I am. That's the easiest part. Like everything else about it is awful and hard, and I hate it. But like, it's just but at the end of the day, right? Like that's the whole reason that there's this motivation of like when you're streaming, you are motivated to create content for someone else to enjoy, and so you're willing to push yourself to understand, endure, fix, and troubleshoot all this stuff on the fly, because ultimately you're trying to make something for other people that you hope that they enjoy, and having fun doing it along the way. But it's definitely it's so hard to try and express that across, especially when that is not the angle that someone consuming the content needs to worry about in any thought or any point in time. Like it's not, like no one goes and watches a movie in the theater and goes like, oh, I need to be very aware of how they made this. You don't need to. You can just enjoy the product that is there at your eyeballs. And that's kind of the experience a streamer wants to give too, is that you don't want someone to sit there and have to understand the intricacies of what's going on in a stream because it's not working for you. And so and so there's like a lot of these angles that you have to play at that make it kind of intimidating and kind of exhausting. But at the same time, So I don't know. It's fun. There's a lot of fun in it, and I think there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. There's a lot of amazingly cool things you can do that especially being here for like 10 years, you turn around and you go like, holy shit, it would have been so nice if I could have just had that in the past. It would have been so nice if there was a way that, I could have done that a long time ago. But oh well. It's all that matters.
Indeed.
It's time to pull the emergency escape ripcord and end the podcast so Colonel can go to bed and Andrew can get ready for Final Fantasy. And it's been 3 hours and all that.
Thank you for your time. This has been a fun one.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for the questions.
Yes, also that. Thank you for the questions.
Send all of your podcast questions to Dialog
the
choices.
Comments for engagement.
Dialog, well, I mean, yes, I guess. That would be the smart thing to do. Ask all your questions in the comments. Or dialogchoicespodcast@gmail.com. I almost answered some of them today, but then we talked about other stuff instead, so that didn't work at all. Bye.
But on days when we don't. Goodbye.